Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this podcast, the Doctor Who Hit or Miss podcast, episode number 4. I am the host this week, with thanks to my boy Will, aka Ask Who Game Shows, who's letting me take the reins. And I'm here with two great guests. My name's Mike, and I'm coming at you from Northumberland. And I have a very special co-host this week, returning from his guest spot on the legendary, or at least legendarily long, episode 2. Introduce yourself and where you're coming here from. Then.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm from Sheffield. I was in episode 2, and they invited me back. So if you hated hearing my voice drone on for 3 hours, you're in luck.
And we're joined by our very special guest this week as well. So what's your name and where do you come from then?
Hi, I'm Doc. I'm from the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands. Excellent. So we've got quite an international flavour to this week then. So that's all good. So I don't know if Andrew's been filling you in, Doc, but we managed to ramble for almost 3 hours yesterday. A good 2 and a bit of that just talking about Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children. I say yesterday, it'll have been a couple of weeks ago when these actually when they air and go out, but yeah.
Well,
so
podcast secret: people record more than one episode at once.
I've written down a million times in my notes that this is actually going to be going out on what will be November the 8th, I believe.
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, so if you're hearing this, I've made a note of it a million times because I kept on making that mistake. In one of the episodes, I was like, well, I don't know why you haven't mentioned it's Nicola Bryant's birthday today. And he was like, because when this goes out, that'll have been like 2 weeks ago. Oops. But so how is everyone doing anyway? What have we been up to?
I woke up about an hour ago, got a shower when I realised I have to record in 50 minutes. Dry my hair, and I'm currently still eating breakfast. I'll just mute myself when I need to take some, so that gives you an idea of how my day's gone.
Don't worry too much about it. There's one podcast, it's either episode 1 or 3, where Will is just literally eating the entire time, and we had to tell him to turn his microphone down because we could hear him chew. It's pretty bad.
I have no idea what happened, but my Discord crashed.
Oh, okay. Well, you're back now. So just keep us right. If you're not there, I'll keep an eye on it. But I don't think you were out for too long, so that's not so bad.
That happened to me yesterday as well.
Yeah, if I glitch or anything as well, keep me posted because sometimes I do have to log out and back in. But if I'm using my phone, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll work better. But yeah, anyway. All we were doing was just basically saying what we've been up to for the last few days, Doc. So how's things over there in the Netherlands?
I haven't done shit actually.
Well,
loving the honesty.
Boring. Yeah.
Loving the honesty. I mean, to be fair, life's been very boring for the past God knows how many months now.
Yeah, I know this lockdown's a bit much, but I'm using the opportunity to catch up on some Doctor Who because I'm a glutton for punishment. So despite the fact that I'm recording multiple, at least 2 or 3 episodes a week on the podcast, I'm also going through the episodes that I haven't seen yet. So yesterday I did watch the Telesnap reconstruction of The Smugglers. So not a great episode, but it does mean that I've now literally seen every episode of the Hartnell era, including the missing ones. So I'm quite proud of that.
Oh, that's pretty cool then.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time due, but I'm making my way through all the ones that I've missed and all the gaps, and trying to get to all of the ones that I've bought on various Blu-rays and DVDs that I haven't watched yet. So I'm quite chuffed because the next one in line is the Power of the Daleks Blu-ray Special Edition. So I'm looking forward to that one. Exciting. So
It really is. Yeah, I've just finished Troughton's era actually.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. What did you think overall?
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Is Troughton. Yeah, awesome. Well, just to fill everyone in that's listening, I'm trying to keep to Will's sort of schedule the way he does things. So we'll be doing this in sections where I'll basically start giving you a list of various things that happened on this day, and you guys can chime in if you want, if there's anything, a story you particularly know or like or anything. And then we'll get into the hit or miss section with my glorious Doctor Who soundboard, which again, you know about, Andrew, but I don't think you do, Doc, but you'll see when we get there. And from there we'll
glorious being the optimal word.
Thank you very much. And then we'll get into the bulk of the episode, which will be the episode reviews. Which is there's a couple of very special episodes this particular week. I wanted to try and give myself some shorter things because we obviously had an epic recording yesterday as we recorded. So there's a couple of shorter ones, but hopefully still interesting, and hopefully people will be interested to listen. And then we'll just close up with a couple of other things I've got to fill in. So hopefully we'll not be here much beyond 2 hours. We'll hopefully keep under that today, Andrew. If you talk too much, I'll just mute you. So, so we'll get straight on with with section number 1, which is on this day. So on November the 8th in the world of Doctor Who. In 1975, Pyramids of Mars, episode 3 aired. So the Tom Baker era.
I mean, I shared my thoughts on this in episode 2, but I think Pyramids of Mars is pretty great. So that's that.
Cool. Awesome. And have you seen
I
Pyramids
have
of
not
Mars?
seen it, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's one of
those,
Baker's best, probably, I think.
I don't know if I agree, but I'll need to rewatch it. I just remember when I saw it, it was years ago, and I was like, it's a little bit dull, but I'm not going to stick to that opinion because I haven't rewatched it. So
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool. Also in 1980, episode 3 of Full Circle premiered, which we also discussed yesterday, Andrew, because obviously these are similar types of things. But yeah, Doc, what about you? Have you seen Full Circle?
I have not seen that one either.
Yeah, that's one of those that's I kind of like it fine, but I don't think it sets the world alight or anything. We also had part 10 in 1986 of The Trial of a Time Lord, which was in the Terror of the Vervoids section. So that's pretty good. I like the Sixth Doctor's era.
I haven't seen that much of it, but I have seen that particular episode, or like that segment, and actually did quite like those, but I mainly watched those just because I don't know if you two remember, I used to collect the Battles in Time magazines back then when they were a thing, in like the late noughties, and I can't remember which series of the magazine it was, but they did one where it involved more classic stuff, and they did like a magazine on the Vervoids, and I thought they looked really interesting, so I just went and watched their episodes.
They look interesting, if a little bit dirty, shall we say? But we'll go no further on that one.
Oh.
I always thought they just looked a little, vaginal, but never mind. We'll leave that out there. And in 1989, episode 3 of The Curse of Fenric, our particular favorite, Andrew, aired. So.
Yes.
That's the only 7th Doctor adventure I've seen.
And what did you think? We love it.
It's fine.
Ooh, bless you. Oh, and you've just dropped out.
I've heard I've got a terrible taste, so, you know.
No, that's fine. Everybody has different taste, but I can't explain why I love that episode. I just really do. So yeah, carrying on.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Awesome. Carrying on from that, we had episode 1 of the Sarah Jane Adventures, Lost in Time. And the 5th episode of the Alien Files. I'm going to be honest, I cannot remember that episode.
I remember it. It's a very interesting one, and it's a shame that. Oh, and it's a shame that Elizabeth Sladen died when she did anyway, because that was just way too soon. But I know that episode was setting up stuff to be done in the future. Because I don't know if you remember, it's the one with the guy in the shopkeeper guy with the parrot, and he sends them through different time portals to get like these
Corsair,
different. Yeah, and he sends them through these portals to get these different sort of time key things.
I did think that it was probably the one with the shopkeeper guy who they've done quite a lot with, because they revealed that apparently he's the Corsair in spin-off media and stuff that from Neil Gaiman's episode Doctor's Wife, and it's awesome when he turns up at the very end of Class, because that was pretty unexpected as well. Spoilers if you haven't seen the last episode of Class, I guess. But yeah, so that episode I think was fine, but it was more trying to set up something that would perhaps pay off and never got to. So anyway,
which is a massive shame.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I mean, not least because it happened twice. Obviously, once with the sad passing of Liz Sladen, which was a shame, and then again because Class got cancelled. So it was like every time that character was introduced to set something up, it was the death knell of a series, which was a shame. Yeah, carrying on, there's some other just slight Doctor Who related stuff, but nothing huge here. On this day in 2013, Celebrity Antiques Road Trip premiered, which featured Colin Baker. I've never seen it. I don't. It doesn't sound like my
No.
particular thing.
Yeah, same here.
Sound of Cinema: The Fourth Dimension aired in 2014, which apparently had music from Doctor Who. We spoke a lot about Murray Gold, Sega Nakanola, and the music yesterday, so there's not really a lot to say unless, Doc, you've got a particular favourite you want to mention or anything? Hello?
Hello? Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
I really like Spy Master. That's my favorite themes.
Oh, okay, cool. That wasn't one of the ones we
No, it
mentioned
wasn't.
yesterday, was it, Andrew? But yeah, awesome. Cool. It's good to have different opinions. We weren't. I don't think we were completely down on Sega
Yeah,
Nakanola, but I think we were all of everything from. Sorry,
the
go ahead.
common consensus between the three of us was mainly just that we like the work that Sega Nakanola was doing, but it's very different in the fact that it's a bit more subtle and not as sort of there's not as many staple sort of melodies, I'd say, as Murray Gold did, because he had a habit of creating like themes for each different character and then like weaving them into different musical scores to let you know, okay, this is a Clara bit, or okay, this is a
Mm.
Donna bit.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love
Definitely.
those series 1 to 4 soundtracks with all the themes and things, but I do have to say that even Murray Gold doesn't always hit it out of the park because I can't stand any of the stuff from Rings of Akaten. That's what I was going to say.
Oh,
So, yeah, not
So
a fan at all.
terrible.
that's interesting because I'm not particularly fond of that episode, but that song is like the only thing that I remember loving from it.
Huh. It just didn't stir anything in me at all, and yet a lot of other Murray Gold tracks do. Like you say, any sort of companions theme or any of the Gallifrey tracks or I Am the Doctor are all really good. And that one I just didn't find memorable. And even when I've heard it back when we did the tweet along, I was like, this is nothing really to me. I don't know why it's just not getting that response.
I
Um,
am curious to ask just because it's just kind of brought up, but what would you two say is your favorite sort of companion theme from from either Murray Gold or Sega Nakanola? Which one are you really fond of?
Doc, I'll let you take this one first.
I really like Clara's Diner.
Cool.
It's
Good
probably my
choice,
favorite
very
one.
good choice.
That's a good shout. It's between Rose's and Donna's themes for me, but for very different reasons because I think they both evoke that companion. Like Rose's is kind of flighty but romantic, and then ultimately seems a bit tragic, and Donna's is kind of upbeat and bouncy, which then goes into like ooh, but there's hidden depths. So I can't pick between those two, but I'll give
I
Rose's
think Murray
soundtracks.
Gold did a really good job of incorporating the characters into the theme. So like you just hit the nail on the head there perfectly about Rose and Donna's.
Mm.
I always go back and forth between Clara and Amy because I love the melody of Clara's theme. I think it's probably the most, for lack of a better word, memorable. And I love
Mm-hmm.
the way that Murray Gold incorporates it into so many different pieces. So like one particular standout is I love how in the track Face the Raven, obviously when, spoilers, Clara's about to die, um
Yep.
he interweaves the melody of her theme but in a lower, slower key. So he
Right,
puts it in
yeah.
a slightly lower key and he slows it down and it just hits so differently despite being the same melody. Um,
Okay.
and then Amy's theme as well. My personal favorite track of every one of the soundtracks is "The Life and Death of Amy Pond," which plays at the end of. You're gonna love this, Mike. It plays at the end of the Pandorica opens. It's like the music that plays over the cliffhanger,
Yeah.
and it starts
Hmm.
it starts with a keyed down version of Amy's theme. I think Amy's theme is in F major, and it goes down to D major for The Life and Death of Amy
Wow.
Pond, but then partway through it turns minor, and that's when it
Mm.
starts to get darker. And sorry, I could go on for ages about that track, but yeah, I think Amy's
Wow.
overall is probably my favorite just because of that.
That's awesome. Oh, Andrew dropping the musical knowledge, man. That's showing off
Yeah.
your skill level there. I love it. I love to hear it. Excellent. Yeah, I don't know the name of the track, but despite what I said about the episode The Big Bang, I actually love the music at the start of that episode when it's a kind of flashback to younger Amelia and it kind of goes through time a bit.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's the
Mhm.
Starless Life of Amelia Pond, I think it's called.
awesome. I'm pleased you knew that because I wanted to give that a shout out because I love that piece. I think it's really good and really
Yeah, that's a good one
evocative.
too.
Awesome. I should really try and get through this, but yeah, we're doing well. But so in 2014, also the episode "Death in Heaven" premiered, as did the Doctor Who extra episode for it. Quick thoughts on "Death in Heaven"?
I know it's flawed, but I still enjoy it a lot for what it is.
I would echo almost exactly that. Yeah, Doc.
Is that the Missy two-parter?
It is, yeah,
Yes.
the sort of
Yeah,
Cybermen
I like the
resurrecting the
first
dead.
part. The second one, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'd say the
The
second's
first
worse than
part
the
is
first.
the first part's incredibly dark, and I kind of love it for that. The second part,
Hmm
again, it's definitely flawed, but I do enjoy it for what it is. Mainly, even if it's just because of the way it sets up Missy's redemption arc later on, and the fact that she's trying to be the Doctor's friend again.
Hmm.
But yeah, I enjoy it for what it is.
It's an episode of either really good stuff, like the Doctor's speech about "Am I a good man?" I think is excellent. I love the body horror of the Cybermen, I should say, and the visual of kind of Danny's face under the cybersuit is really I wouldn't say good because it's kind of grotesque and off-putting, but that's the point. But at the same time, I also hate that they turned the Cybermen into like we can assimilate you like the Borg with almost like no pollen or something, or and the worst decision in the history of the show was resurrecting the Cyber Brigadier, which is just disrespectful and stupid. I
Yeah.
hate that thing. So yeah,
I would shout out Michelle Gomez's performance, so I thought she was phenomenal
yes,
in that.
yeah, she's brilliant, absolutely. So yeah, just quickly going through the births and what have you. Richard Curtis will be 64 on this day. It's his birthday. He's of course the writer of Vincent and the Doctor and the producer of one of the episodes we'll be discussing today. The actress Nerys Hughes will be 79. She appeared in Kinder, one of my personal favourite Fifth Doctor episodes.
Is that how it's
And
pronounced?
Kinder, yeah.
I've always thought it was just kinda.
Mm.
Yeah, I did until I watched the episode because when you read it, it's like, oh, kinda, but no, it's Kinder,
Oh,
bizarrely.
okay.
Mm.
So yeah, and the actress Meg Wynne Owen, who appeared in A Christmas Carol, will be 81. So happy birthday to those guys.
That is a phenomenal episode as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are we're discussing the very possibility of doing that in this run of episodes. So stay tuned.
Oh,
Interesting.
that is at least in my opinion, A Christmas Carol is without a doubt the best Christmas special by a long mile.
I don't want to give any of our opinions on it in case we do end up doing it, but I will say that it's been discussed, shall we say? So there's strong opinions, one way or the other. I'll just add.
Oh, okay.
Exciting.
So yeah, the actor Malcolm Taylor sadly died in 2012. Would have been 83. He was in The Ice Warriors.
Okay,
The
good
actor
story.
and yeah, I like that story a lot. The actor and comedian Ken Dodd, one of my dad's favourites, would have been 93. He sadly passed away in 2018. And of course, he's hugely famous for his own variety shows and comedies, but he was also in Delta and the Bannermen. And
Mm.
the legendary director Lenny Mayne would have been 93. He passed away in 1977. He directed, Will's written down here, he directed The Monster of Peladon, but I think he did a lot of uncredited work on other stories and things too. And I'm pretty sure there's a great documentary on one of the DVDs or Blu-rays, which is like Looking for Lenny Mayne, which goes through his life and his contributions to Doctor Who. So I would shout that out. And
That's really cool.
That's good.
yeah, I love all that kind of those kind of pieces because it's really cool. You get an idea of who the person was,
Yeah.
and that I think informs particularly like directors and things what they bring to Doctor Who. And yeah, sadly there was a death on this day in 2012. Roger Hammond, aged 76, passed away. He was in Mordrin Undead, which is an episode that I haven't seen, so I can't really comment on that. I'm afraid.
Neither have I.
No, well, it
Which
happens. There's a
Doctor's
lot
that?
of. Mordrin Undead. I think it's the fourth, but I'm not sure. I'd believe you if you told me it was the fifth. It's one of those two. I have
I
a
think
feeling
because
it's the
there's
fourth
just
Doctor.
so much classic Who that it just gets it's kind of overwhelming how much there is.
Yeah, I do recall. There's a lot of episodes that I've seen when I was younger in passing that I can remember bits of, and I remember Mordrin being. I don't know if he was an evil Time Lord or just somebody that could regenerate, and I've got a visual of Mordrin, the character, the sort of dishevelled old man, but that's literally everything I know from that episode. Like, I can't
Yeah.
even remember
Pre-Hartnell
which Doctor it
Doctor.
was.
probably.
Yes, all of your favourites are pre-Hartnell doctors. Everyone
Yeah.
I'm going to
I-
mention in hit or miss, pre-Hartnell doctor.
Do you two follow that Twitter account? Because I love it.
Yeah,
I
I
love
do.
it. Yeah, And
It's hilarious.
I love that it's spawned so many imitators that we've now got. You know, such and such is a pre-Delgado master and is a pre-Butterworth meddling monk, and everything have started to spring up as well, which is brilliant.
You know what? We
Uh,
mentioned this
It's great.
yesterday. The Timeless Children may be controversial, but you've got to admire the balls on Chibnall to do it because it's
Yeah, it opens
definitely
a lot
opened
of
up the
doors, so.
floodgates.
Completely, yeah. It's definitely given you a lot to talk about without being able to go, well, that's nothing, is it? So, yeah, so that fills out the On This Day section, which took up way too long, but not to worry. We're going to go straight from there into the hit or miss section, if that's okay with you guys.
Of
I'll
course.
get
Definitely.
get my voice changes ready. So how this works, if the audience doesn't know, or if Doc, you're not sure because you haven't been on before, I'm just going to give shout out a thing from the Doctor Who world. There's 10 things. I've cleared them all with Will that they're not things he wanted to discuss in another episode or anything. You may not have actually had an opinion or not seen or heard any of these necessarily. Not any, I mean like bits and pieces of them. What I'm going to do, I'm going to shout it out, and then we're going to go guest, co-host, and then me giving our thoughts. So if that's okay with you guys, I'll shout it out, and then Doc, you give your thoughts if you have one. Andrew,
Sure.
you give yours, and then I'll finish us up, and you
Yeah.
can have a right to reply to me then if you like. The very first thing that I have on my list here is Lucy Miller. Doc?
I don't even know who that is actually.
Lucy Miller, she's a companion in the Big Finish Eighth Doctor stories,
Eight,
played
right?
by
Yeah.
Sheridan Smith. You may not have
Oh,
heard
yeah.
them, as I said. It's understandable if you haven't, but
Well, I've heard it. I've only heard like 3 adventures, so I can't really
Okay.
give an opinion on that.
well, if you had to on the 3 you've heard, then would you say hit or miss for the character?
Tough one. I'll go with it.
Okay, awesome. Andrew?
I am a very bad Doctor Who fan in the sense that I have not listened to that much Big Finish at all. However, I do know she's played by Sheridan Smith, as you just said, and
Yeah.
Sheridan Smith is a phenomenal actor. So I think
Agreed.
just on that basis alone, it has to be a hit.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to much Big Finish until a couple of years ago myself, and then I kind of got into it. But I love Lucy Miller was kind of my introduction, and I think she's a great companion. I think the Eighth Doctor and Lucy is the TV series we should have had, we deserved, and we never got. So obviously, my opinion on that, if you bear with my soundboard, is. Could you hear that?
Nope, not at all.
No.
No, it's because I'm on my phone. I don't think it's going to work. Oh, that's a shame. That is a real shame. In which case, I'm going to have to abandon the soundboard for this episode. Apologies, everyone.
Just
but,
so
you
Doc
know,
knows what the soundboard is, it's basically a board where he's recorded different things to sound like a Dalek.
that wasn't necessarily. That was just the last episode that you were on where I did that. Before that, I did have a soundboard of actual Doctor Who sounds.
Oh,
you
okay,
know,
that's
clips.
cool.
So, like, yeah, you can't even hear it, can you?
Nope.
I don't know if it's coming through on the recording. In which case, I'll just give my opinions, and we'll. Unfortunately, if you're a fan of the soundboard, it'll be back in the next episode, hopefully. But yeah, my opinion on Lucy Miller, I think I've given it a hit. So I thoroughly recommend, even if you've heard nothing else from Big Finish, look up the Eighth Doctor and Lucy stories. They're very, very much like the new series stuff as well. I think it's a fantastic springboard to the Ninth Doctor and Rose. It's an easy transition. So moving on. The second thing I have here is a bit of an odd one, but I had to put it. Frobisher the Penguin. Doc?
I've listened to Holy Terror.
Okay, I have not, but okay. And thoughts?
Well, it's kind of a meme, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like Nardole-ish.
Well, Noddle's not a penguin, but other than that, yeah. I guess so. Oh,
Yeah,
bless.
I say hit.
Okay, Andrew?
Again, I do not have that much experience with the character, but just based on the meme alone, I will say a hit.
My entire experience is the comic stories of Frobisher.
That's the main stuff I've seen.
Yeah, I get the point of the character, and I get that it's played for the humor. But for me, controversially, it's too silly. So I'm just gonna go with a miss, I'm afraid. But we've got 2 hits and 1 miss, so I think
It,
that's an overall.
That
when
is
I first
great.
found out about it a little while ago, it kind of struck me as Doctor Who's version of Howard the Duck.
Mm. Yeah, I can see what you mean with
Yeah.
that. There's a history though of those kinds of characters because I'm the same with I can't remember the exact name, but it's something like Beep the Meep or something from the audios, who is just too ridiculous for me, unfortunately. Which might sound weird when I go to this next one and give my opinion, but the next thing on the list, if you guys want to jump in the order, I have Douglas Adams.
No idea.
Doc? No. Oh wow. Okay. So just to give you some backstory, Douglas Adams, sadly he passed away years ago, but he's a famous author, probably the most famous for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the Dirk Gently books. But he's also one of the producers, script editors, and writers on Doctor Who during the Fourth Doctor's era. So he wrote specifically City of Death and the Pirate Planet, and he produced the entire Key to Time and I think the season after. He's renowned for kind of being a bit quirky and a bit out there, yeah. So anyway, have you seen any of those stories or anything, Doc?
Pirate Planet, right? Yeah.
Pirate
And
Planet, yeah.
uh, it's fine. It's not great.
Okay.
So,
If you had to say a hit or miss for it, though, one way or the other, what would you say?
yeah, I go with hit.
Okay, cool. So sort of a soft hit then in that case.
Yeah, really soft one.
Okay, and Andrew, if you're finished eating over there, what's your opinion on Douglas Adams?
Did I forget to mute my microphone?
No, you muted, but I could tell by the fact that you weren't interjecting. I was like, he's blatantly muted and he's eating something.
I was like, well, guess who's talking? I'll take a moment to eat my cereal. I think I've seen both of those stories, but it was a while ago, so I don't really remember them all that well. But from what I remember, they were fine. And like Hitchhiker's Guide is pretty funny, so I'll give it a hit overall.
Okay. Well, I'll jump in and say that. No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, unless like Douglas Adams is like Gareth Roberts, and we've found that he has a very controversial opinion that I need to say no to.
No,
then
quite
I think
quite the
it's-
opposite. He's severely, he's very sort of supportive of various rights and quite left wing, shall we say?
That's good. Then that's good. All good.
So no, he seemed like a really thoroughly nice bloke. I mean, if you read the work, it's all in there, really, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially Hitchhiker's Guide, which is my favorite book of all time to this day. I love it. City of Death is one of my top 3 to 5 Doctor Who episodes of any of them. And yeah, I think Douglas Adams is great. Even the Dirk Gently stuff I kind of like. The Hitchhiker's Guide stuff I think is better, but yeah. And I just love
what
them.
are the villains in City of Death? I'm just trying to see if I remember it well.
It is Scaroth. It's the one where the Doctor and Romana 2 are in Paris, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. It's vaguely ringing a bell.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that episode. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's from a great era. And those 2 seasons, I think, they get some flack in places. It gets a bit silly. I mean, I think Destiny of the Daleks. There's moments at the start of that which push the Douglas Adams-iness perhaps a bit too far. He didn't write it, but like I said, he was kind of producer or script editor all the way through those couple of years. So, but overall, I've got to say it's a total unqualified hit for me because I love Douglas Adams and I love Hitchhiker's Guide, and his Doctor Who stories I think are brilliant. So weirdly, sort of related to that, which I hadn't realised, the next bullet point I have here is the Key to Time season. Doc?
It's 4, right?
It's Fourth Doctor, yeah. So it's the
Yeah.
Fourth Doctor and Romana 1, and it's those linked sort of, I think, 6 stories where they have to find segments to the Key to Time.
I've no idea that it's a story in a whole, but yeah, it's a hit for me.
Awesome, cool. And you, Andrew?
I don't think I've ever actually watched the Key to Time series. I'm just looking at it now, and I'm looking at the different serials. I must have seen bits of it because, like I said, I vaguely remember watching the Pirate Planet at some point. but
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen most of these other ones, even though I have a vague idea what happens in them because I recognize the titles.
Mm.
But I liked the idea of sort of a very self-contained and like weaving plot throughout a single season. So just
Mm.
on that basis alone, I think it would probably be a hit from me if I watched it. I might have to watch it now.
Yeah, I recommend doing that because I think it improves if you watch the whole season in one go, because it is weird how even though it's linked, it's not necessarily one like complete story. You can watch the individual serials, which as you said you did, and which I did. There's ones I saw out of order, but then when I watched it all together and you see it from, I think the Rebus operation is the first one,
Yeah,
and
it
carry
is.
on from.
It's from the Rebus operation to the Armageddon Factor is the 6th serial run.
Yeah,
That's
there's
all
like I
of
said,
season 16, right?
absolutely, yeah, that's
Think,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah, there's things in there I love. As I say, I love the pirate planet. I like Stones of Blood. Rebus Operation's fine. The others are kind of unmemorable, but the way they link into the overall narrative, I think, makes the season a hit for me. So that's what I'll say for that. Unless anyone wants to argue.
No.
Fine
Yeah.
by me.
The next one I have here is Scream of the Schalke, which I'm
Ah,
gonna say I'll have to say out of because I haven't seen it. So
it's
Doc,
great.
it's on the
Think,
list.
yeah, it's probably my favorite animation out there.
Awesome, cool. I'll definitely. It's on the list. I will definitely eventually watch it. I've heard lots of good things about it, but I haven't really seen it. So you're going to say hit, Doc? Yeah.
Yeah, hard hit.
Awesome. And Andrew,
I'm thinking of the right thing where it's the animated series with Richard E. Grant, isn't it?
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay. I also have not seen it, but I know it exists, and I also have heard very good things, so I should probably watch it.
Yeah. I think we'll say that's a hit because two of us haven't seen it, and Doc is a very strong hit on that. So I would say that's a hit. Then in that case, the
Do you two
next
know who
thing,
the master plays in there?
who? Oh, it's Derek Jacobi, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's like a
it's
robot
great.
version of the master. Awesome. Yeah, I do want to watch that and then give some thoughts. Maybe on a future podcast, that would be good. Weirdly, the next bullet point I wrote before we recorded yesterday, Andrew, and we've kind of given our thoughts on this already. So I probably won't go into it too much, just reiterate a couple of things. The next one is The Fugitive Doctor. So, Doc.
I don't like it. I don't like the context of the
But
timeless children at all. Oh,
okay, so you think that affects your overall opinion of the character then?
yeah, I think so. She's great, the actress.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love her take on the Doctor, but yeah, it's a weird idea.
So do you
Oh,
think
it's a miss for me. Yeah,
it's a miss because you don't like the where she fits in the kind of timeless children story?
yeah. If she was like the third Doctor after Troughton,
Mhm.
I would cope.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
A lot of people, I think, have that opinion, and or similarly say like if she's the 14th Doctor, they would be completely on board with it. But yeah, as I say, we gave our opinions yesterday. But do you want to quickly, briefly summarize Andrew again?
Yeah, I really, really love her a lot. I think her characterization is very well done. I think Joe Martin's performance is pretty phenomenal. I know we discussed Fugitive the Jadoon yesterday, and you weren't the biggest fan, but
Mhm.
I personally really enjoy her in that story. And yeah, even if we don't get any more answers as to where she fits in the timeline, which, as I said yesterday, if we don't, I'll be very irritated. I would
Agreed.
still like to see the character again because I do really like her, and I
Okay.
think, yeah, I think she brings a lot to the scenes that she is in, even if it's not for very long.
Okay. So that's one miss and one hit so far.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that I'm perhaps more on the fence than I was expressing in episode 2, because there's a lot that I like. I think Jo Martin is a great actress. I completely agree with that. And lots of the things that she does are kind of cool. And I loved her, as I said on episode 2. I loved her, the sort of illusory, imaginary version of her from the Timeless Children. I was way more on board with that version, but I just have issues in Fugitive of the Jadoon with the sort of excess level of violence and the implication that she's some kind of space cop or whatever, and she's not afraid to get her hands dirty, and it's a bit undoctory for me. So I'm gonna say she definitely has the potential to pick over into hit, depending on what comes next. But at the moment, I'm sorry, it's a miss. Sorry, Andrew.
No, that's fair enough.
So yeah, that's the Fugitive Doctor covered. Unless you had something, Doc.
Sorry?
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think you said it perfectly.
Cool. Awesome. The next one on the list is Martha Jones. Doc, your thoughts on Martha?
Probably my third favorite companion of all time.
Oh, awesome. Behind who, out of curiosity?
Number one is Jamie, obviously.
Oh, cool.
Number two is Bill.
Bill Potts from 12.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, Andrew, you're dying to go. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was appreciating the love for Bill there.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
I love Bill a lot. But anyway, this isn't about Bill, this is Martha. I wouldn't she's not in my top 5, however, I do still absolutely love the character, and I think the show did her absolutely dirty in her series. I don't hate me for any of you Rose fans out there. I was not particularly fond of Rose even when I was younger. I liked her, but I think after she left and other companions started being introduced, I started to realise that I thought Rose was a pretty flawed character. And I hated that in Martha's season in particular, the Doctor spent more time just talking about Rose than he did actually properly getting to know Martha. And I think that was a massive disservice to the character. And one of my favourite moments of the Russell T Davies era as a whole, even though it's in a very mediocre episode, in my opinion, is the way that Martha leaves in Last of the Time Lords. I love the fact that she actually stands up for herself and is like, no, you've kind of treated me really crap, so I'm going to go.
Completely agree, actually, yeah.
I love her character, and I think Freema Agyeman's a fantastic actor.
Oh, agreed, yeah. I'd also add to that, yes, that scene in Last of the Time Lords, but also the fact that she basically saves the day, they're kind of traveling the world, telling the stories and everything.
Yeah.
And like you said, recognizing her own power, because she even says herself, I spent a lot of time thinking I was second best, but you know what? I am damn good, So,
yeah. I love Martha so much.
So I didn't really ask you guys, but did you say a hit to Martha Jones then, Doc?
Yeah, definitely.
Hit. And
Yeah,
you, Andrew?
absolute hit.
I'll agree. Complete hit. I love the character. I love Freema. I love the arc that the character gets. So it's a hit for me. That's 3 hits. I think that's the first thing we've completely agreed on, actually. So interesting. The next, there's only 3 left, so we'll hopefully get through them. The next one is Twice Upon a Time. Doc?
I don't like One's characterization.
Okay.
He's a bit sexualized,
Sexist. I've heard that before. Yeah.
But other than that, it's fine. I like the
Okay.
speech, the ending speech of Capaldi, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, the good Dalek coming back is great too.
Okay.
Overall, I think it's a pretty solid episode. So I'll go with the hit.
You'd say hit. Awesome. Andrew? Andrew, you there?
Just eating a cereal.
Yeah, sorry, I was taking that moment to gulp down some cereal.
I thought we'd lost you, sorry.
So I pretty much agree with what you said there. I'd give it either a soft hit or a hit. There are more aspects of it that I like than dislike. In particular, I just love Bill. I'm so glad that she got another episode. 12 is one of my favourite Doctors. I really like both their performances. I loved the sort of final goodbye to Clara. That made me cry, I remember when it first aired, because
yes,
this is probably quite controversial, but I adore Clara as a character, so I was very happy to see her get a proper goodbye, I guess.
Yeah.
The episode as a whole, I can take it or leave it. Like, there's not really a villain to it, which is fine. It's interesting to do that, but the episode, for its story, I can take or leave. There's some sweet moments with I can't remember the name of the character, but the character that Mark Gatiss plays, who's like the Brigadier's grandfather. Like, I quite like
Archibald. Thank you.
Stewart. I like the moments with him. And I will say that Capaldi's regeneration scene is probably my favourite out of all the ones I've seen so far. His speech is gorgeous.
It is. It's
Yeah,
so good.
definitely.
Yeah, my thoughts on this, they might be. I'll try not to make them too long, but it's kind of related to a little story that I may have told in a previous podcast. That I was really lucky in that I got preview tickets to see this episode twice upon a time, a couple of weeks before Christmas Day, because the BBC were doing like a touring exhibit kind of thing. So it was in the centre of Newcastle, inside of an actual church, with like a snow scene and a TARDIS that you could get your picture with outside. So all of my thoughts about the episode, I think, are tied to just the fact that I was having a great day because of all that. So I was in a very receptive place anyway. And as I said, the atmosphere of literally watching it, I was sitting on a church pew inside of a church, looking at like a big cinema screen at the front. And with all that in mind, when it gets to sort of the moment of that's what it means to be a Doctor of War, there might have been a few tears. So I loved that bit. I thought it was brilliant. And then, as you can imagine, you know, the more emotional beats of the episode, especially when you get to that speech at the end, is just glorious. And that was also the overriding memory they left us with, because we didn't get to see Jodie Whittaker, because they said that, you know, they'd do the start of the regeneration scene, but we'd have to wait till Christmas Day to see that bit. So it literally cut off as Capaldi started regenerating. And so that speech was kind of the thing that was fresh in the mind. So I think that's, again, it colours my opinion of the episode, because that was the memory I was left overall. I see what you guys are saying about the First Doctor being a bit sexist. I didn't find it overly egregious, and it is kind of present in the character. Because, you know, it's 1963 to 66. So there's bits of that when I've been watching through the era. I don't think Moffat needed to do it, so I see what you mean. But I also, on the other side of that, I like the idea of Mark Gatiss playing a relative of Lethbridge Stewart, and then him saying the Doctor's going to watch over the family. But I do feel like that's him trying to redeem his poor decision about the cyber brig, to give the character a bit more respect back.
I will say I do think even though I didn't dislike the characterization of the First Doctor, I didn't really have a strong opinion either way. But I will say I do think it makes for a couple of the episode's best comedic moments. Specifically him. I mean, this isn't really him being sexist, but the part where he's looking through the sonic sunglasses and goes, "What's browser history?" I quite like that. That was an on-running gag. And then, in particular, I love the part where he tells Bill that he's going to basically slap her on the bum for saying bad language, and they have that really funny moment outside the TARDIS. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that one is pretty great.
I think at the time that jarred on me, and I was like, that is so ridiculous. That's offensive. And then I watched Dalek Invasion of Earth, and I was like, oh, it's that exact scene. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
This really is something he once said, so you kind of can't be that offended by it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and I think, as I said, without getting too much into it, I think David Bradley does a really good job playing either William Hartnell or the First Doctor, or both in his things.
I agree.
So, yeah, and so overall, complete hit for me. And oh yeah, I did mean to mention as well, it has one of my favourite writers, Toby Whithouse, in a very brief cameo acting role, which is pretty cool as well.
Oh yeah, 'cause I remember in an interview Moffat said that he really liked that scene between the English and the German soldier facing down in that trench, because he basically just pit his main writing room against each other.
Yeah, because it's Mark Gatiss and Toby Whithouse who are the two opposing sides. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the second last one I've got here is Jackson Lake. Doc?
So that's the next Doctor, right?
From the next Doctor, yeah, David Morris's
yeah,
character.
Okay. It's a good episode. I don't like the character specifically. Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I don't know. This is a hard one for me.
Okay, well, we've had a few where we've said we may be more on the fence, but we'll come down one side or the other. But you're not going to get judged or anything for your opinions. You know what I mean? You can say you like or dislike anything. We're not going to attack you for it. So it doesn't sound like you're that
miss, actually.
that hot. Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're that hot on the character. So
no, definitely not.
Okay. Any other reason why you just don't think he's anything special, or?
Well, yeah.
Hello.
It's.
Hello, you there? Hello. Oh, he's dropped out. Oh, hopefully we'll get him back. Andrew, while we're waiting on him coming back in, did you have any thoughts on Jackson Lake?
I did, but I was going to wait for him to hear it. Because, funnily
My
enough, my
Discord
opinion...
keeps crashing.
Oh, there we are. You're
There
back.
we go. I
Hello.
did see you were out, so sorry, I was waiting to see you were coming back in. So, yeah. So, why would you say you didn't particularly respond to Jackson Lake then, Doc?
Um, I don't like it that he's pretending to be well, not pretending that he thinks he's the Doctor.
Yeah, well, you can say that it's kind of like he's pretending. I mean, in an acting side of
Yeah.
things. Yeah, fair enough. So, what about you, Andrew?
So my opinion is actually the complete opposite of Doc's, where as an overall episode, I think that episode is an absolute miss. I am not particularly fond of it at all. I think the Cybermen are
Oof.
used weirdly. But anyway, it's not about the episode. The episode as a whole, I would say, is a miss for me. But I actually really like the characterization of Jackson Lake. I think I rewatched it not recently, but kind of semi-recently for part of a rewatch that my partner and I are doing. And I don't remember being as emotional about his story as I was when I watched it then. I think his story is quite tragic in the way that he sort of finds out what happened to his wife and kid.
Yeah.
So for his character overall, I'd say his character is a hit, but the episode he's in is a definite miss.
Okay, so that's
For me, he's the highlight of the episode for me.
Okay, so that's one miss and one hit. I'll say that I actually love that episode. Again, I can't explain it. I think I'm always just in a really good mood at Christmas, so I don't think there's a Christmas special that I'd say was bad, even the ones that nobody else likes. Yeah, even the ones that nobody likes, I just said. But so yeah, I like that episode, but I particularly like Jackson Lake, and I love Neil Morrissey. I think he absolutely could have been a great Doctor from the portrayal, the characterization that he gives.
Yeah, I do think
And
so. Yeah.
because he's not doing kind of a parody or an over the top thing, he just kind of is the Doctor seemingly. But he's able to switch that into the character when when it's revealed who he actually is and become Jackson Lake, and the tragedy of that character and him being just a random 18th century or 19th century type guy. He's playing two roles, David Morrissey, and I don't think anybody would go, "Whoa, what was that shift?" You just became a completely, it's visibly the same person playing, two characters, and I think he does a really good job of that. So I'm going to say hit.
His performance really helps sell it.
Completely. I think in the hands of a lesser actor, they could have played up the thinking there, the Doctor part as being, way too preening and prancing about, and the comedy show idea of what the Doctor's like, and he just didn't do that. And then, as you say, when you actually find out Jackson Lake's tragic backstory and everything, it's just great acting. So yeah, that's one miss and two hits for Jackson Lake. And the final thing in this little bit long section for the hit or miss, this might take a little while as well because there's perhaps a lot to say. The last thing I wrote down was just the Time Lords. Doc?
Like in a whole.
Just as a general concept, because the reason I wrote it down was because they're obviously quite a big part of the series, but they don't exist in it until the end of the Troughton era. Then they're a huge part, and then Russell T Davies, Moffat, etc., just wanted to get rid of them, like they don't like them. So I just was curious about you guys' thoughts.
I like the Time Lords, but not now anymore because of what they did to the Doctor.
Yeah, so that's like story decision. Okay,
that's sad. But other than that, I think they don't add much to the story itself.
Okay.
Doctor Who in general, so still go with a hit.
Oh, that was weird. You didn't give any positives
Yeah.
and said it was a hit. Yeah. So why would you say hit then? If you don't really like them, you seem like you're on the side of the showrunners who kind of want them abandoned and not in the show. So why would you say hit?
They're definitely needed.
Okay,
in the Doctor's history. So
okay.
that's a huge part.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what you're saying, you like that they exist and the classic kind of appearances, and
yeah.
You wouldn't want to lose those episodes, and so for that reason, you're probably going to say hit overall.
Yeah.
But with the proviso that you could live without seeing them ever again, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
That's
Andrew?
fine.
I'm kind of in a similar spot, I guess, where I think in terms of what they bring to the mythos and what they do for, like, obviously the history of the Doctor and explaining who they are, I think yes, they're kind of essential because they are the same species. It helps us to understand who the Doctor is and where he comes from. But also at the end of it, they're kind of. Am I allowed to swear on this? I can't remember. It's not a major one, but they're kind of
I try.
assholes.
Yeah, I try not to swear too much, but we have once or twice. But yeah, okay.
They're kind of assholes when you think about it. Even if you take the timeless children stuff out of it, they're still kind of just assholes. Like even in End of Time, they were just gonna crash their planet onto Earth, and it's like, right, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
You meant to be these benevolent beings that just stand by and watch, and you're kind of evil at points. So yeah.
Yeah.
As for what they do for the mythos of the show, yes, they're a hit. But as a species themselves and how they interact with us as humans in the show and stuff, yeah, they're questionable.
So what are you saying overall then?
Overall, just based purely on what they bring to the history of the show and the lore, it's gonna have to be a hit.
Okay, so that's two really soft hits.
Yeah.
I will say I think they're a hit purely because I like the kind of geeky sci-fi-ness of it all. I love that they have that kind of grandiose pomposity. The dress robes and the symbols and everything, and yeah, just the very concept of them I think is cool. I don't like that they are bad guys, like in terms of what they do, but I like what that does for the stories. Having somebody, being able to pop in and say like, "Hey, Doctor, prevent the creation of the Daleks for us," and the Doctor kind of is forced to, and I think that gives you a lot of interesting room for stories. I don't agree with the opinion that they have to just be gone forever, but I would say that after the events of the Timeless Children, they better be, because if they've survived that and there's just a random explanation given as to why, I think it would be ridiculous and downplay that moment. But I will still say a hit as well. So I think that's three relatively soft hits.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that was an interesting section. It wasn't super long, but we had a lot to say there, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully Will appreciates that, because he hasn't been here, so when he's listening back, it might entertain him a little bit. And so that's the end of the hit or miss section. So we're going to go straight on now to the section of reviews. Depending on time, we're going to do a couple of shorts. If time gets away from us, we'll just do the one. Oh, what was that? Okay.
That was just me. That was just me breathing heavily in despair at what I had to watch for you last night.
It's not that bad.
We'll get there, but we're going to start off, and we can reveal officially now. The first thing we're going to review here is the story, "The Curse of Fatal Death." It originally aired as 4 separate 5-minute episodes, making it a 20-minute story overall. The version that's available commercially now is on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. For some reason, it's split into just 2 episodes of 10 minutes apiece. That was the version that I watched, and so it's the version I've made notes on. Just really quickly, it was written by Stephen Moffat, directed by John Henderson. The music is by, well, it's credited as a musical consultant to Mark Ayres, but it reuses music from previous stories such as Meglos, Warriors of the Deep, and Resurrection of the Daleks. And the music from Tom Baker's Regeneration in Logopolis can be heard briefly during the first regeneration sequence. It's also notable for being the very first visual effects work on Doctor Who that was done by The Mill, who would eventually take over in the 2005 revival. So,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully that hasn't bored anybody with all of my little quick facts and stuff. But so yeah, "The Curse of Fatal Death." What's your just without getting into too much? What's your quick thoughts on the Curse of Fatal Death overall, Doc? Without saying too much of why you love or why you hate.
It's funny. I like the actors in it too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Actually,
That's
I don't really have much to tell.
That's fine. Well, we'll get into it when we get into the notes. We may find more to say there. What about you, Andrew? Just as a quick thing.
I would call it, in trying to be as brief as possible, a very entertaining piss take of the show whilst also being a love letter.
I think I said that in my overall summary, which I may get to the conclusion, but without wanting to give too much away, there wasn't really literally much that I could say to start my notes. So I've just put it's a very interesting bridge between classic and new Doctor Who, and I hope we're all sitting on our sofa of reasonable comfort, which is all I really added for that. Yeah, I also should have added this episode is available on the YouTube channel. It was aired in aid of Red Nose Day on the 12th of March 1999. So it is also placed literally smack bang between the classic and new eras, 4 years or 3 years, sorry, after the Paul McGann TV movie, and 6 years before the episode Rose brought the show back. So here we go. I'll just get into. We're going to do it like we did the last review, Andrew. And for your benefit, Doc, what we do, we're just going to go through it chronologically. We've made notes to try to keep in mind various things like direction, acting, musical things that we may have noticed or liked, bits and pieces like that. I'll start us off with what I've written as to where we are in the episode, and then you guys, I'll ask your opinions, or you can jump in anytime and just say what you think. I like the title for first of all because it's a great gag at the expense of redundant Doctor Who titles. It's specifically a jab at the Deadly Assassin, which is the most redundant title ever. If you're not a deadly assassin, you're a crap assassin. so that's where that sort of comes from, and I like that. I think it's not a ridiculous sort of out in your face joke, but it's just clever enough and geeky enough for me to appreciate it.
Yeah, I really like the title.
Same here.
Same thing. I like that the familiar kind of classic Doctor Who credits with Rowan Atkinson's face. So it does just feel like you're straight into a continuation of a possible ninth Doctor. Cool. Obviously, I said it's Stephen Moffat who wrote this episode. His very first work on Doctor Who, weirdly enough, long before he was writing or became the exec producer. He was known at the time as a comedy writer. I do want to give a shout out to the show Coupling, which I think is one of my favourite comedies of all time. Which he wrote.
I was trying to remember what the show was called.
Yeah, got 4 seasons. It's called Coupling. The last season does have a good few Doctor Who references in it, actually, as well. So I've just said here, oh, what would be to come for Stephen Moffat? He's clearly a fan. So,
yeah.
Thoughts on that, guys? No.
I mean, to be fair, I'm trying to remember when I first saw this, but having now obviously gotten to know what Stephen Moffat's writing's like over the course of him writing for the show, you can kind of at least in my opinion, you can kind of very clearly see his mark on this pretty much from the get-go in the writing. I think the dialogue is very sort of witty, just right from the start. It doesn't really waste a moment getting into the comedy aspect of it, and I actually really like the Master's TARDIS as well. I think it looks quite cool here.
Yeah.
I said the opposite. I said that I thought the special effects and the actual interiors and all of the sets look terrible. They're not good. Particularly, I don't think they're good enough for the fact that this is, it's 1999. You know, the TV movie had some pretty good effects and a fantastic TARDIS interior. And it's years after that.
McCann's TARDIS is stunning.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely. And I get that this is like, it's supposed to be the classic show and it's referencing that. But at the same time, Moffat even said, this was, we made pains to fit it into continuity so that at the time it could absolutely be the official Ninth Doctor if you wanted it to be. It could be a continuation. And so I think in that respect, every kind of the special effects and the interiors are a huge step backwards. But
I will say, I made a note a bit later on that I thought the special effects were awful.
Yeah, I mean, I get that's the gag, but
I mainly noted it sort of. I can't remember how far into the episode it is, but it's near the end when the laser beam sort of goes off, like that. It all looks very, very shoddy. But I actually quite liked the TARDIS interiors. I didn't mind them. I thought they looked nice and retro, which was nice, sort of nostalgia.
Okay. I do want to say about that.
I've got not much to add, actually.
Okay, fair enough, Doc. Yeah, I did. While I was criticizing that, I did look up some things about the sets, though, and I do have to say I feel really bad because it turns out these sets were literally provided by fans. So they weren't professionally made; they were fan made stuff that was lent for the purposes of the charity special.
I did not know that.
Interesting.
In that respect, I kind of have to give shout out and say, considering this was made by fans and not professional prop people, as it turns out, yeah, really bloody good work in that case.
I
Terrible
quite
work
like
for
that.
the BBC, great work for just a fan thing. So, absolutely, yeah, I like that as well. It's not the first time they've done that either. They've I think in The Doctor's Wife or something, one of the consoles that they had was from a fan who'd built a TARDIS console. There's bits and pieces like that, but yeah, do go and look it up because there's a history of fans helping out the
Oh
show.
yeah, it's if I remember rightly, in The Doctor's Wife, it's the one that him and Idris used to essentially make a TARDIS to land inside of the TARDIS.
Yeah,
Yeah,
If I
that's
remember
right.
rightly.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, you've got to respect Doctor Who fans. You've got to love. Every time I see like an actual TARDIS that's been built, you've got to respect the work that goes into that because I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. So, so I will add that part about my criticism of the sets after that. Okay, my next note I've got here is just about Jonathan Pryce. I think he looks great as the Master. He absolutely could have been somebody you could have cast. I think he plays the campness of the character for the comedy brilliantly. I think he would have been. You could totally see him portraying a more serious version of the Master because he's that kind of an actor. But what he's doing here, I wouldn't love if this was the main show, but I love the fact that it's playing up the campness, and I think he does a great job of that.
Yes, I totally
I
agree
totally
there.
agree.
Oh wow, so we're all in agreement so far then.
I made pretty much the same note of the fact that if this was a main series Master, I probably wouldn't like it too much because it might be a little bit over the top on the camp and the silly, but here it just works really well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be fair, the show itself has made one or two references about that as well. Has
Yes.
the Master still got that rubbish beard? Well, he's got a wife, That's actually in the main show.
Yeah.
So the next note I've had is one that you're not going to like, Andrew. I've put that I hate this. Well, I don't hate, but I don't love the gag about you might want to turn your speaker off before you view me. That's so cheap. I did not like that one. It's the cheapest joke in the thing, and it's so. I mean, I still laugh at it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit cheap for me.
No, I'd agree. It's not his smartest thing. I still find it amusing. Did you say that just because that's the clip that you saw me watching yesterday?
Yeah, you were laughing at
it. Yeah, I was. But like the only reason it was that clip we saw is because I just put the episode on.
Oh, okay.
But no, I still think it's quite funny. I do. I love the humor in this. It's yeah, I love it. It's kind of hard to find the words to say exactly what I want to say, but.
Well, that's going to make for an interesting podcast then. No, I have to shout out here as well. The line delivery from Jonathan Pryce of "You will face the deadly vengeance of deadly revenge." It's just it's a great line delivery, and the fact that they then immediately on the crescendo of that speech have lightning happening inside of a TARDIS is ludicrous. But it's hilarious because you get where it's coming from. It's kind of a play on those tropes. So I had to shout that out as again, if it was the main series, I may have a huge issue with it, but it's really funny, so it's hard to criticize it too much.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I've said that Julia Sawalha was great as Emma. She doesn't get a whole lot to do, but she gets a couple of good gags, and again, you could totally see her as being a regular, particularly classic series companion.
Yes, I'm quite a big fan of Julia Sawalha because I really like Absolutely Fabulous.
Okay.
So it was nice to. I remember. I don't think it was the first time I watched it, but it might have been the first time I watched it after I'd seen Absolutely Fabulous. I realised it was Safi, and yeah, I think she's really great in the role. And I realised yesterday, actually, when I was rewatching it, that this also means that it's kind of words. It's kind of an Absolutely Fabulous reunion as well, because obviously Joanna Lumley comes into it later on.
Spoilers, but yeah, absolutely. I also. It's also perhaps notable that Julia Sawalha's big break, and where I know her from and kind of got to like her as an actress, was in the series Press Gang. I don't know if you guys know that. It's a kids series set in like a school newspaper kind of thing.
Oh, I've heard of
no
this.
idea.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
The reason I think that's notable is that's the very first TV work by some guy called Stephen Moffat. So don't quite know how Julia Sawalha got this job, but yeah, there we go. Anyway, moving on. Doc, what do you think of Emma?
Yeah, it's good for spoof. I don't think I would want her a regular companion.
Okay, that's fair
To be
enough.
fair,
I think I'd be fine with it because I've seen Julia Sawala and I know she can act. I
Yeah.
think she's playing up, as you see, she's playing up the spoof part of it. And even still, she's
Mhm.
she's lumbered with having to be as close to the straight man, I think, as the whole piece gets. And she still does really well. So that when she gives a joke, it knocks it out of the park, which I'm sure I'll get to later. But yeah,
I will
again,
say I
yeah.
I personally could see her, like you said, being especially a classic companion, although I will say that if that was the case, I'd hope it would be in a scenario where the romance aspect is turned down a bit.
Oh yeah, completely.
But
Yeah.
it just as an actress playing the role, yes, I do really enjoy her playing the part.
That's an interesting point you make. Actually, that's it's not really the next thing on my notes, but I'll bring it up now. The idea of the Doctor and companion romance is, again, it's notable that this happens just after the Doctor and Grace have kind of had their flirtatious moment and the first kiss with a companion, and Emma is just the companion just before Rose in a lot of ways, who is the next kind of serious romance, I guess, that they play up with the Doctor. Um, so I guess you're not a fan of that, then, Jonathan. Jonathan?
Jonathan?
Who's Jonathan? Andrew.
Who the fuck is Jonathan?
Do you know what it is? It's because I'm looking at my notes and I'm looking about Jonathan Price, and I'm like, hang on,
Oh.
he's not here. Yeah, Andrew.
So just as a concept, how am I on Doctor Companion Romance? Is that the question?
Yeah, overall, and do you think Moffat was aware of where the show was going based on what's gone before? And do you think he's commenting on that, or is it just he needed, the Doctor's retiring type time for the story, so why not get married?
Okay, there's a lot of parts to this question. So, as an answer to the how do I feel about Doctor Companion romances, for the most part, I do not like them at all. Just because it's just a personal thing, but I don't really see the Doctor as a character that needs a romantic counterpart.
Mhm.
Obviously they kind of went quite heavy in on the Doctor Rose romance, especially in series 2, and in my opinion, at least, that actually detracted from their sort of pairing in the series. I wasn't particularly fond of that at all. And I also think it's kind of going back to what we said earlier about Martha. It almost kind of detracted from her as well, just because of the fact that the Doctor was so hung up on Rose, and it added more bad than good than it did for me. It's also it also lends itself to being one of the only parts of Series 5 that I do not like, which was when Amy kisses the Doctor in Flesh and Stone. I do not like that.
Yeah, we all
That's
already said we didn't like
No
that.
one
Yeah.
liked that.
yeah, that rubs me up the wrong way completely, especially because Amy's my favorite companion, and it kind of upsets me to see that, even though it kind of shows how far she goes by the end of the show of her run, it kind of put a damper on her at the start, which I did not like. And then it also, at least in my opinion, you two might disagree, it also hampered Eleven and Clara's dynamic, because a lot of it, especially with Eleven's dialogue in Series 7B, there's way too many sort of flirtatious remarks and almost sexist comments, which I wasn't comfortable with. I think it's either at the end of Bells of St. John or Rings of Ackerton, when he drops Clara off and then he starts saying that she's like a riddle wrapped in an enigma in a skirt that's a bit too tight, and I'm like, no, don't say that. No, what the chuff are you on about?
Yeah, I get
So
I get what you mean. Yeah, I don't
Yeah, I don't
find
like
that
it.
as offensive, and I also think it's just that Moffat's strength is, as I said before, he wrote coupling, so he's really good at writing those kind of sexual dynamics and things. And I think it's literally a matter of, as he kind of went on as showrunner, and I think perhaps got more and more tired, he was falling back on those kind of tropes and things just automatically, and not filtering it as well. But I don't
maybe,
judge him for it. Yeah.
but I do really like the fact that, and I don't necessarily think this was a good or a bad thing. I just think it's kind of interesting that Eleven and Clara kind of had this romantic dynamic, kind of, that I didn't like. And then once 12 came into the picture, Moffat was trying to make a point that they're
Hmm.
not a thing by literally having 12 say, "I'm not your boyfriend, Clara."
Yeah,
But weirdly, I think their dynamic became more romantic than Eleven and Clara's ever did.
I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so why do you agree then, Doc?
Well, I don't like when it gets all sexualized and romantic. I like just ordinary dynamic more.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and I think I detest in anything what the kids and things call. I sound really old there. What the kids and the internet call shipping. I'm not a fan of that at all. It bugs the ever loving crap out of me.
You
Mhm.
kids, get off
it's
my lawn! Sorry.
but it's my least favorite part about watching the I'm a huge fan of all of the, for example, CW DC comic shows, and my
Mm.
least favorite part of watching those is the fact that, you know, they've got to have the romance stuff in there because it's the CW, so it's Dawson's Creek with superheroes anyway. But then characters that have no business being, there's no hint of tension between them. Is suddenly, the internet's alive with, oh, we ship these two characters together because they're great together and stuff. And it's like, just watch the damn show. And it's
Yeah.
one of the things I detest most about the current era is the Doctor and Yaz shippers, because
Mm.
it's not there. Like, I'm not begrudging you, if you want to see representation and you'd love to believe that, absolutely, more power to you, go for it. But I don't see it there, and I think you're forcing it a little bit, really.
I am going to interject here just because I actually do disagree a little bit. Not with everything you're saying, but just with a certain aspect of it. So, just using 13 and Yaz as an example of what you just said. I agree that I don't find there being, at least on 13's end, I don't think there's any sort of romantic feelings at all for anyone really with 13 at the moment.
Yeah.
Yaz, I will say there are a couple of moments where I feel like they might be trying to possibly sow the seed for that. I can't remember which episode it is, but there's one point in particular where it's in The Haunting of Villa Diodati. That's why I remember it because I watched it the other week. Where Yaz and I think Mary Shelley. No, it's not Mary
Okay.
Shelley. It's the one who's dating Lord Byron. I can't remember her name. They're sat by a door and they're talking about the fact that this lady clearly loves Byron, but he's kind of treating her like crap. And she
Mhm.
says to her like, "Oh, is there anyone that you have in your life?" And Yaz sort of said, "Yeah, there is someone, but they're not exactly normal." I can't remember exactly what the wording is, but it's very heavily hinted that she's either just extremely, extremely fond of the Doctor, which understandable, or that she might have feelings for her. Which if they do go down that route and they do make it canon,
Mhm.
whilst I wouldn't like it because I'm just not a big fan of Doctor Companion romances, I will at least appreciate the fact that they actually did set it up a little bit and that they're doing a same-sex romance rather than just a heterosexual romance, because it is, and this is just coming from my standpoint as a gay male, but I do like the fact that that would mean there's some homosexual representation within the main cast, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
which we did have
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Bill. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
See, my pushback to that would be that I'm not sort of a member of the gay community or anything myself, but if you're going to have that level of representation, then have it. Don't expect that gay people are going to be happy with those little nuggets. Like that can
Oh,
clearly
definitely,
be, yeah, that
definitely.
can clearly be read as being the Doctor. I get that, but it can also just as easily be referring to Ryan or Graham or anybody that we haven't seen. And I think Bill is such a step forward in terms of an out and proud lesbian character
Hmm.
that they weren't ashamed to do. That then, if Yaz does turn out to be gay, and we've had 2 full seasons where it's just never come up, that's not good enough, in my opinion. So,
I
No.
would again. I would also agree with that. I do. If Chibnall really genuinely does go around the route of just queer, I think it's called queer baiting,
yeah.
where you set someone up to potentially be of the LGBT community, and then psych, they're not. I would be actually genuinely miffed off with him for doing that. Because for the most part, apart from maybe the couple in Praxis, his LGBT representation has been shoddy so far.
Mm.
Uh, especially after Bill, especially after he had Bill.
Yeah.
But anyway, just the bit I was going to rebuttal on was just in terms of people shipping characters, I feel like it's anyone can ship anyone. They're allowed to do that. They're well within their prerogative
Yeah.
to do that, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to do that.
Yeah.
The bad part is where they start, for lack of a better word, trying to pressure the show into making it
Mhm.
happen. or treating
Yes.
someone like, oh, you're a bad person because you don't believe that these characters belong together. It's like, it's a fictional
Yes.
show. Get over yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That's where I was coming from. Is that just to give a specific reference, being in the sort of Supergirl fandom, it's every bit of shipping in that show has just turned so toxic because obviously you have the to use your word queer baiting of a lot of people who want Supergirl and Lena Luthor to be a couple, and there's little hints at that which I think are very baiting. But those people are also incredibly toxic in that anytime Kara, the character, gets into a relationship with a man, they will start testing that actor and abusing him on the internet and everything. And it's like, because
Yeah,
they
that's
see it
gross.
as
Don't do that.
Terrible.
it's too far. Yeah, absolutely. I hate it because, in my opinion, yeah, you can want two characters to be together and like that, but I don't see that as shipping. I think shipping for me has those negative connotations because it is so toxic. Like, for example, I love the Agents of Shield is a great show, and there are characters on there who did get together, and those who sort of were hinting at but didn't, who I loved the idea of in couples, but I also didn't sort of like not get the pairing I liked, and then sort of start slandering the show or whatever. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
that's a
Well,
huge digression from my
Yeah.
point.
just before I finish up my whole thing on Doctor Companion romances, because I completely glossed over the main point I was going to get to anyway. The only
Okay.
time, again, you two might disagree. The only time it's ever worked for me is the Doctor and River.
I was just gonna say, so what
Yeah.
did you guys think about River Song then? Because that's kind
I-
of basically
I adore River, and I love the way her story works out. But I think it kind of helps that she's not in the TARDIS all the time. I think it helps the fact that she's just a recurring character that maybe appeared a couple of times a season of Moffat's run. And I feel like because of the nature of the character and the way that their timeline works, that they're going, she's going, while he's going forward, she's going backwards, or whatever the order's meant to be. I think that lends to it almost. It makes it. I think I've seen someone else say this before, but it's very the time traveler's wife. But yeah, that's the only instance of a Doctor companion relationship that I've actually been fully on board with.
Okay.
I totally agree, actually.
Okay.
I love the timeline shit. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it.
That's fine. No, you go ahead. So yeah, so I don't know if you guys are really saying you're against it then, so much as you have to be really good or clever in the way you tell it. Because to me, I'm not a massive fan of the fact that there's a romance between those characters, but given that we were given it anyway, I do love it because the chemistry's there with all of the various actors involved, and because it is kind of a tragic love story, which I'm always a sucker for as well. So yeah, I like it because we've got it, but I can live without it, shall we say?
Okay, fair enough.
Having said that, the Husbands of River Song's last sort of 15 minutes, again, cried like a baby.
Oh god, I was
Yeah,
about to say,
oh.
we watched that when it aired. We were sat on because we went to my parents for Christmas that year, so my partner and I were sat on my bed watching that on his tablet, I think, as it aired on iPlayer, and I just bawled in the last
Yeah.
15 minutes of that episode. That it was a gut punch. It was
Yeah, that was
beautiful.
great.
It was a brilliant wrap up for that character, but oh my god, it broke my heart.
Completely, and that's really weird because I think the whole idea of the Doctor and Rose and their forced departure is supposed to evoke those feelings, but it just doesn't for me. Like it's not.
Yeah,
as well
it never
written.
it didn't for me either.
Yeah, but it's not because she's a companion. I think it's just not written as well, which is a
Yeah.
shame because I love RTD, but yeah.
Like, I think one thing that really cemented my position as not liking the Doctor and Rose's romance was the end of series 4. When he just gives her the clone Doctor, or the what's he called? I can't remember what they call him.
Yeah, Meta Crisis.
Meta Crisis Doctor, thank you. When they just sort of leave her with him, I hate that. I think I would have preferred, or at least not been as bitter about their relationship if they'd have just left it how it was after Doomsday. But
Yeah.
that ruined it for me. Ruined
just
what
gonna say,
little
yeah,
respect I had for it.
I think absolutely. I was just going to say the same thing. I think it's not a unique opinion because I've seen like everybody I speak to says the same thing. But the character should never have come back after Doomsday, because you're just devaluing that every time you do it.
That's
yes,
another thing as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I get that the kind of the idea that you're given in Doomsday to separate them is a complete rip off of his Dark Materials books, but it works. I don't think that's like explicitly ripped off in that way. And if you're gonna do that kind of an ending, like I said, you can't do "You're never gonna see her again" and then have her popping up like 4 times in season 4, because the audiences are fickle, and if we hear "You're never gonna see Rose again," but we do, even if the Doctor doesn't, it does just devalue. But that's my last thoughts on that anyway. Because
Wow, we went on a tangent.
Did we ever? Getting back to the Curse of Fatal Death. um,
Oh, that's where we were.
Yeah, we were reviewing the Curse of Fatal Death, believe it or not. So just quickly, the next joke I thought was again an example of great comedy timing. The Tercerans communicated by farting, and then they all went extinct. What happened to them? They discovered fire. I think that's comedy timing genius.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember when I was watching it yesterday, I was like, I think I remember being like it when I saw it beforehand anyway, but I was always a little bit perplexed why Moffat, of all people, resorted to fart jokes. But then the payoff is the joke about the fire, and I was like, okay, that's funny. I'll forgive you for that.
It also gives you the joke, my favorite joke in the entire 20 minutes, which it's not here, but again, I'll jump forward. My favorite joke is when they sort of admit that the Daleks can't, because they have no noses, so the Doctor and Master can communicate by farting. And the Master's like, danger, here, you must. Skibbity bobbity, blibbity bobble. And then Julius Sawala's character is just like, oh, sorry, that was me. That's my favorite joke in the entire episode.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Fart jokes are the best.
Not always. I don't like the
once
Slitheen fart
executed
jokes and
well.
stuff, but exactly. I think Moffat has a gift for these kinds of things that just has me rolling.
Yeah.
It's better than the Slitheen.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. I mean, cheap
Definitely.
fart gags are not great, but when you're doing something cleverer with it, as clever as you can get for a fart gag, I like it. I've also said on the subject of Tercerus that it's worth noting it's an actual planet from the Deadly Assassin, which Moffat is obviously a fan of.
Huh. So that's twice it's kind of been referenced. Again, did not know that.
Yeah, the title's a reference to it, and the planet Tercerus first was mentioned in The Deadly Assassin as well. And then obviously Moffat does mention it again in his era somewhere. I can't remember where.
Yeah.
Speaking
Interesting.
of, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Moffat, I've said that this whole thing is Moffat playing with time travel in a really clever way that would totally become his staple. It's brilliantly played for the humor of the matter here, but if you look at it as Moffat's overall work, the whole idea of oh, I'm going to go back before you and do this thing, and oh, now I've been walking for 300 years. Oh no, now it's been 600, and oh, you think you're going to go back, but I'm going to go back further. It's played to the extreme, but it's also very reminiscent of the stuff that Moffat does.
Yes,
he's really great with time.
Yeah, not always. I'm not a huge fan, as we discussed in episode 2 of Pandora Opens Big Bang, where he basically breaks all of the rules that should be in place. But otherwise, I would say, yes, brilliant. Excuse me.
I would say Moffat's one of the only writers that I remember anyway. Obviously, I haven't seen all the classics, and maybe there are other people who've done this. But I feel like Moffat's the only one who really played with time as almost a character in itself of the show. Absolutely. Like, I think he utilized it a lot more than, at least from what I remember, definitely RTD and Chibnall has been.
I agree.
So I like that a lot. And I like the fact that you can see the sort of start of that even in just this 20-minute comedy short, that the elements of his, what would go on to become his sort of staple writing, is still here and is still clever and funny.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to add. Just I completely agree with everything you just said. So,
yeah, that was great.
The next note that I have was, again, it's perhaps going to be a bit boring. I'm just repeating jokes that I like, but in terms of humor that's a dig at the show but still respectful, again, the Doctor mentioning, all of these things, all of the monsters I've faced, all those endless gravel quarries, is a fantastic dig at the low production value of the classic.
Yeah. Oh, this script is really good. I'm just going to put it out there now. This script is really, really good.
It is. It's far better written than it has any right to be.
Yes, I'd also agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah. So next, I've said it's always good to see the Daleks who show up now. And just as another little geeky
Mhm.
side note, it was the last time that the actor Roy Skelton voiced a Dalek. He'd been doing that since I think second or third Doctor's era.
Oh wow,
He-
quite a while then.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
also more famous, perhaps particularly for people of my generation, for voicing Zippy and George in Rainbow. So you guys haven't
I have
seen
no idea what that
the
is.
kids show
You know?
Rainbow, then?
I know what
Must be
Rainbow is.
great.
I know what Zippy is, but I've never seen it. I was born in '96. I think I'm a bit
Ah.
young for that.
You're so young that you've offended Doc to the level he's dropped out again.
If it's any consolation, my partner turned 29 not even last month, just a couple of weeks ago. I'm 24, and there's stuff that he knew as a kid that I have no idea of or I've never seen, and it freaks him out. And he's only like 5 years older, so
Yeah, it's very weird that, but yeah, no, it doesn't make me feel a lot better because, as I've mentioned, I'm 38 years old, so I'm still the oldest one here. Welcome back,
you back,
Doc.
dude? You back? Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the things I think I've covered, but I'll just carry on and say that I think whoever directed this did a perfect job of directing it to look like an episode of the TV show. It's
Yeah.
perfectly mimicked. Again, another joke that references the show, but a dig at it, running down a load of corridors that Emma says, "Wow, they all look the same."
Yeah.
We all know about. We're Doctor Who fans. We know exactly what they mean. And the existing cliffhanger on the version I watched, which was the opening a door full of Daleks. Again, very reminiscent of the kind of cliffhanger you would get in the show, I thought. I know that the special effects here are terrible because it's clearly a use of like toys to show multiple Daleks, but I think that's a deliberate reference to Power of the Daleks and Planet of the Daleks, where that's done, specifically in the show. So I think that's for the purposes of the gag.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me knowing Moffat. He likes to do that sort of stuff a lot.
If you haven't seen it, by the way, check out the supposed army of thousands of Daleks in Planet of the Daleks, which is blatantly just a room filled with foam and a bunch of like Shawcraft 12-inch Dalek models. It doesn't look remotely convincing. Yeah, so that carries us straight on to part 2 of the piece. So, and I've said, yeah, just like Doctor Who, it recaps the last few minutes before we get the culmination of the cliffhanger. Which is them arriving on the Dalek spaceship, and yet again a great joke that's a dig at the show affectionately. Why do the Daleks always change their minds when they say they're going to exterminate you? And the fantastic runner of "I'll explain later" that carries on.
Yeah.
I've said that this, as a writing thing, I think that's a great comment, not just on Doctor Who, but the logic of any continuing TV show. Why doesn't Batman kill the Joker? Why do any enemy that says they're going to destroy you then end up not doing or whatever? Yeah. The next part was obviously the Master then turns up and it's a great gag about has no idea what to do with the Dalek plunger hand or what it's for, which was a nice little nod to me of what was to come in Dalek when they subvert that. Well, what are you going to do with the sucker? And then it sucks a guy's head off and whatever.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but I'm not really a huge fan of the Dalek tits, to be perfectly honest. Again, it's cheap. It's borderline transphobic.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's awkward.
It's a little awkward, yeah. But on the subject of that, etheric beam locators is another reference to Genesis of the Daleks, which again, Moffat, obviously a fan.
I just going back to what you just said, I agree because I remember when I was watching it yesterday, the moment where it came across as both a little like potentially bordering on transphobic as well as being kind of sexist is the way that he talks to Emma during that scene, and the way that he like just looks at her and goes, "They're also incredibly firm." I'm like, oh, that's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, the implication being that Emma's had a boob job. Yeah, it's not funny.
However, I will say, and again, I don't know if this is a good thing or not. It does lead the way to one of my favourite gags later on. Sort of, I only mentioned it before, but once Joanna Lumley comes into the picture, it does sort of lead up to her jokes, which are probably some of my favourite in the short. So
I think the delivery, there's the delivery of the gags in a couple of moments, I think, saves that because it's the same when I think it's the Richard E. Grant doctor says, "Oh, I know you. You're the camp one. I'm not camp. Really nice tits." Which again is
Yeah.
just as a play on the kind of campness of the characters. I think that's again, it almost makes it work. So it's not like detestable, but I'm not a huge fan. Do either of you guys know how you can conquer the entire universe in minutes with just a beam?
Nope.
Nope. I don't
No,
think
I'll
so.
explain later. Don't worry about it.
Ha 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 ha! You're so funny.
It's true though; they do that all the time. Again, not just in Doctor Who. It's like, oh wow, they've got the Zectronic death beam. The entire world will be destroyed. How? Don't worry about it. We literally just saw that in the Timeless Children. Like, this death particle will destroy the entire universe. Oh no, wait, we've shrunk him, so now it'll destroy an entire planet. How? It's a particle. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. But yeah, anyway, the next thing I've noted, which I was quite proud of myself for, but it's a level of fan geekiness that I perhaps shouldn't be. Moffat actually, as a fan, makes one slight slip up in that the Dalek says that the beam will fire in X number of Dalek minutes, and he should have said
It's
rels.
Rels. Yeah, I
Yep.
noticed that
Yeah.
yesterday.
I've mentioned already the communicating through farts gag, my favourite gag of the entire thing.
I will say,
Sorry.
just on the line of that, because another gag that I really like in that scene is I think it's when they start communicating through farts, and Emma just leans over to one of the Daleks and goes, "Can I be strapped to a different chair?"
Yes, I'm pleased you mentioned that. I'd forgotten that gag, but
Yeah.
again, yeah, it's the timing, the fact that it's played really seriously. There's a
You
beat
can
for
tell
like
they've
half a
got
second. And...
you can tell they've got like actors trained in comedy for this because their timing, pretty much on all counts, is perfect.
Yeah, I've
Mhm.
made a note of that, I think, later, but I've said that it's worth pointing out that, as the old adage goes, dying is easy, comedy is hard. And comedic acting doesn't get enough respect because it's really difficult. I think probably more difficult than dramatic acting. It's one of the
Having
reasons
had to do both, I would definitely agree that comedic is harder.
Yeah, and it bugs me no end that like comedy is rarely nominated for like acting awards and stuff because I appreciate that takes way more skill, and if you misjudge something, it ruins the entire piece.
A good example of that, though, where like a comedy actor is kind of underrated or like at least overlooked, is like look at Catherine Tate's performance in Series 4.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
she is known for her comedy, but yet she knocked it out the park in Series 4 with all the serious acting. And even
Yeah.
then, she still got some great comedy gags in there. One of my
Definitely.
favorite scenes of all time in pretty much the entire show is the scene in Unicorn and the Wasp where the Doctor gets poisoned and they're arguing in the kitchen about what he needs.
Powerful
That scene is
wallbanger.
hilarious.
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, it's brilliant. So you guys, the next is a Moffat gag about why are there chairs on a Dalek ship. I'm just going
Which
to ask because I'm
came
sure
back.
you. I was just going to say, I'm sure you guys both know which episode that he came back in because Moffat does use that exact gag again. More or
Yeah,
less.
but in all fairness, I would say the way he uses it in The Witch's Familiar is almost
There it is.
better. It's the gorgeous. It's the delivery is phenomenal by Julian Bleach. It's just the part where he just says to the Doctor, "Behold, Doctor, I have found the only other chair on Skaro," and I remember dying with laughter when that first happened.
Yeah, I'll say nothing about that because that's more of a review of that episode. But I don't know if it
True.
fits there. But I do really love it here because again, it gives you the "I'll explain later" runner as well.
Yes.
Doc, what did you think about the reuse of that gag in Which Is Familiar?
Yeah, it's great. He's perfect. But
Okay.
yeah, that I can't say much. You've said it all.
Okay, cool. I've just also made a note here that I love the set design on the Dalek ship because it is so crap, but deliberately it's
Yeah.
designed to look like something so old fashioned that there's literally even big tape reels that I noticed on the back. Yeah, so then we get into the start of the regenerations part, and I've just put that Richard E. Grant, good timing. He would later play the Schalke Doctor and both Walter
And the
Simeon
Great
and the Great
Intelligence.
Intelligence, of course. Moffat's making a good few sex jokes here, but that's what he's kind of known for. Then we get the
Mhm.
Jim Broadbent Doctor, who's a bit nervous and shy. We get Hugh Grant. And yeah, weirdly here, it switches into some moments that I think are really sweet and again reminiscent of Moffat's era because you're in this comedy moment. But the line, look after the universe, I've put a lot of work into it, is both gorgeous and again would be used again in the actual show.
Yeah, that's a really nice line.
Mhm.
Is it with Hugh Grant where I liked this? It's funny because watching, obviously this came out before the revival, but I remember when I was watching it back, I thought that this was kind of funny, that this was almost kind of similar to what would happen in the future, where I think it's when Hugh Grant's in the role where he's about to kiss Emma, and Emma goes, "Oh, doctor," and he goes, "Oh, assistant." Like, I think that's
Yeah.
a really funny gag that's
Yeah.
almost kind of became a thing in a way.
Yeah, it's also it's not hugely reminiscent, but it did bring to mind kind of when the 10th Doctor, when the 9th Doctor was regenerated into the 10th, and there's more or less that subtle hints of like, oh, Rose is kind of okay with this. That when the Hugh Grant Doctor comes in, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Emma. Can you learn to love this new face? And she's like, oh, I don't think we should have too much of a problem with that.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant in 1999, which is the height of his sex symbolness, you know.
Yeah, and like it's even before then when he's going through the different regenerations, and she's just stood to the side going, "Result."
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, Emma's description of the Doctor, I've said, was more or less used again, but not quite as extreme or ridiculous of, you're
Yeah.
like the Easter Bunny or Father Christmas. But again, it's the kind of thing that I think appears in Moffat's era a lot, is people
Mhm.
almost eulogizing the Doctor. I've
Yeah,
had to know...
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree because I'm specifically thinking of Series 6 where that sort of thing starts to really come into play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only good part about Wedding of River Song is her speech as well about, if you need help, do you think the universe would ever hesitate? You've helped us enough, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, any case, we've lost Doc again. He seems to be the only one that's dropping
keeps
out and back
dropping out.
in. But yeah,
Maybe
are you
he's-
back, Doc?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. It's been
That's
doing
okay,
this forever.
As long as we're
Am I
getting
not
you
letting
back,
you
he's
talk
free,
enough?
so-
Are you protesting?
No, yeah. That's it, probably.
Well, anytime you want to interject, just do, because we
Yeah,
talk way
please
too
do.
much. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I will.
Awesome. So I've made a note here that I had to shout out the line "Never cruel and never cowardly," which has become legendary. It was first used by Terence Dicks in the Doctor Who Target books, and then notably used in the Peter Capaldi regeneration speech in Twice Upon a Time.
I was gonna say I thought that came back with Capaldi.
Mm.
It's the regeneration speech. Never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never ever eat pears.
Doesn't he? Doesn't he mention it to Missy as well at one point?
Very
Or am I
probably
misremembering
because
that?
no, very probably it's a huge thing, as I say, because it's the sort of thing where it was written in a couple of Target books by Terence Dicks, then it became more famous, and he kind of ran with it. I think he includes it in the Five Doctors because he wrote that, and then it just kind of it recurs as a sort of fanboy known thing that this is a good description of the Doctor.
Mhm.
It's the second most famous Terence Dicks description behind a long-shanked knave with a mighty nose was his description for the third Doctor, which he mentions 1,000 times because he finds it hilarious, not least because he just used to bring it up to John Pertwee all the time because he could annoy him. Anyway, so then we head on to Joanna Lumley, our, again, quite telling here, the first example of a male to female Doctor. And in a really weird coincidence, do you guys know what number she is?
13.
13.
Yeah. How bizarre is that? That would
Yeah, that's
actually end up
crazy.
happening in that exact number. That's one of those weird things where you're like, that is such a huge coincidence.
I wanted to make a note on this as well. I honestly think, I mean, to be fair, maybe not Jim Broadbent, but I think that's just because we didn't get enough time with him in the role in this short. But I honestly think any of these actors could have worked as an actual Doctor.
Yeah, we were robbed.
Yeah, you already said, Andrew, that we were robbed of Joanna Lumley, who was the greatest Doctor we didn't get yet.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the DMs yesterday, but I would have absolutely loved her in the role, like just for like a few seasons. I think, I really love Joanna Lumley anyway, but I think it would have been great to see her play the role for a significant amount of time.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
agree.
The only other note I've got here is that I'm on the fence about the dirty joke regarding the Doctor's sonic screwdriver. It's a bit too dirty, but it's also hilarious. It's got three settings.
Yeah,
It's a classic.
I do really like that part. Most of the stuff that comes out of Joanna Lumley's mouth in this short is probably my favourite part. I love that the first thing she saved after regenerating is she just stands up and goes, "Emma, look, I've got etheric beam located." Like, it absolutely just. I am a little bit worried that it might be a little bit sexist by today's standards, but I can't help but laugh at it. I think it's so
I
funny.
don't think it is. It's if anything, I think it's weirdly forward thinking and progressive in that way for '99. Because again, it's Joanna Lumley's delivery, but lines like "Your mother's going to get quite a surprise at the wedding. Do you think we'll both wear white?"
Yes, that
It's,
one's very good as well.
Yeah.
Just
amazing.
everything she says, to the even down to the are you sure? I think I can see an on switch. It's comedy gold. I love her.
And again, in terms of using the concepts of the show for a great gag, Emma's sort of line, "I don't think this phrase has ever been used quite so literally before, but you're not the man I fell in love with." It's
Yes.
so clever
great.
and funny. Yeah. So yeah, just to finish off with a couple of quick facts, and then I'll ask you guys' opinions here. While discussing the special in Doctor Who magazine issue 510, Moffat discussed how the intent of the special was to make a regular episode of Doctor Who which happened to also be funny, rather than just a blatant spoof, meaning that extreme steps were taken at the time to have it fit within the then existing canon. Moffat went on to add that while it's since been disregarded, at the time it could have been seen as a legitimate continuation of the show, which I've said, yeah, I can kind of agree with that. I see where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You agree, Doc?
Yeah, I do. I
Awesome.
always agree, apparently.
That's okay. Yeah, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. So
You two have great taste. That's it, probably.
as do both of you guys. As do both of you. So yeah, if you guys want to give your quick conclusion and summary and end it with your score out of 10 and whether it's a hit or a miss, I'll go third. So we'll start with you, Doc.
We were absolutely robbed of Hugh Grant.
Okay.
It would have been amazing as the Doctor. Like a proper Doctor. But I mean, yeah, the episode itself is pretty solid. It's a good story. It could fit in the timeline.
Mhm.
And yeah, as you said, it's a great bridge between classic and new Who.
Awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
I
would
don't
you
have
give it
much
out
to
of
tell.
10 then?
It's a tough one because you can't really compare it to anything.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll go with the 8. 8 out of 10.
Okay. So I'm assuming you would say hit out of the hit or miss rating.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Weirdly enough, I'll break the order and say that I gave you exactly the same. 8 out of 10, hit, thumbs up. So I'll just echo that was my rating. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd pretty much reflect what you guys just said. It's kind of hard to rate it compared to like episodes of the actual show because it is like it's half as long as a modern day episode, and two, a lot of it is kind of played for gags, even though there is somewhat of a actual plot in there. It's not a big plot though. There's no like explanation for what's going on exactly. But just for the gags and the really tight writing and the really great comedic acting, I'd give it an 8 or a 9. Definite hit. I love it.
So we'll probably say that's 3 8 out of 10s then.
Yeah, I'd go for that.
Which I'm only going to say because that means that it's really easy for me to work out the average. It's 8. But yeah, just my final word on that. I think this is funny. It's charming yet respectful. Great writing by a fan, but with some affectionate jabs. The comedy acting and timing is flawless. The music and direction are at least competent. Some gags were a bit too cheap or prolonged, but it's a fun 20 minutes that's both hilarious and celebratory.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said.
Awesome. Oh, well, thanks, guys. Genuinely just had a little moment of feels there. Oh, bless. So, yeah, we've got about 10, 15 minutes to discuss the next piece that we were going to, which probably won't take that long because there's not much to say other than, we could probably sum it up with the poop emoji, at least in my opinion. But yeah, so just because I must say this, I made you guys watch, I'll reveal it now, the special, which isn't very special, episode Dimensions in Time. It is it's one 7-minute episode, one 5-minute episode, which means it's 12 minutes of torture. It was written by John Nathan Turner. Which was his. Oops, excuse me. Oh, crumbs! I've just closed the page there. My actual computer does not want me discussing this episode. It's that bad.
Understandable. I totally agree.
Okay, so carrying on from there. It was written by David Roden and John Nathan Turner. It was John Nathan Turner's first and only writing credit, and disgustingly is the highest rated thing of anything he produced in terms of viewer numbers. something's very wrong with the world.
That's
This
great.
piece was directed by Stuart MacDonald, with music by Kev McCulloch, and the theme tune was by Cybertech in the style of the Pet Shop Boys, who quite wisely refused to have anything to do with this. So, yeah, brief thoughts before we get into actual sort of depth or whether we really liked or disliked. Doc, you go first.
The plot is interesting,
Okay.
and
one way to
yeah,
put it.
I like all the props they used actually.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Is that all you've got to
That's
say
all.
about it?
Yeah, there's not much to say
That's
here.
probably more than it deserves. I don't want to be leading the conversation, by the way. If you guys do like this, and I know it has, there's a couple of diehard fans on Twitter. I don't want you to feel like you can't say that you like it, because everybody's entitled to like whatever they like. But we'll go ahead and say, Andrew, what's your brief thoughts?
Oh, well, you made me watch this, so I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm glad I at least get to share my thoughts on it. Put it this way: the highlight for me was just Pat Butcher, because I think I don't even like EastEnders. I have never really watched it, but for some reason, I just think Pam St. Clement's quite funny to look at. I think that's really awful. But yeah, I
Wow.
feel like the character of Pat Butcher's kind of a legend. I don't even care for the show, but when she walked on, I just laughed for no reason other than, oh look, it's Pat Butcher with the Doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, the fact that that's my main takeaway from it is a little bit worrying.
Slightly. I actually did bother to write something, again, more than it deserved, but I just said, this is an oddity. It's that's being generous. It's so campy that it's gained a bit of a cult following after many years of extreme vitriol. It's incredibly non-canon, but it's a shame to discount it entirely because of the fact that there's some neat returning actors and character
Yeah,
meetings. But overall, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
I would thoroughly agree. It was very nice to see certain a lot of old characters come back. It was also kind of sad though, because when I was watching it last night with my partner, he was sort of letting me know that so for example, I'm pretty sure that was John Pertwee's last ever appearance as the Doctor, which is kind of
Yeah,
sad
probably.
that was the last one he did.
Yeah, probably.
I also was not a fan of the way they treated Will Hartnell and Patrick Troughton.
Oh,
The fact that they were
terrible.
just awful looking CGI heads floating around the Rani's TARDIS was.
They're not even
Ugh.
CGI. I'll jump in with that little fact here. They're not CGI, and the reason why is obviously the actors had passed away, but they wanted to try and trumpet it as being every Doctor. And the other big gimmick was that it was in 3D, so they wanted to have these. Today they would have used a 3D effect to have their heads, but it didn't work at the time because it was 93. And the technology wasn't there. So what it actually is some really crudely made busts of the first and second Doctor's head that they filmed, and by golly, you can tell it's
Oh god.
not good. But yeah, that scene is it's ridiculous, pickled in time. Anyway, just briefly going into some quick facts that I had about this. It was part of the 1993 Children in Need appeal, with the second part airing on Noel's House Party on Saturday, about where it belongs. It was intended as a celebration of Doctor Who's 30th anniversary. In my opinion, it's the worst anniversary special, even worse than the 40th anniversary special, which is non-existent. It aired in 3D with a sorry, I'll carry on. It aired in 3D with a viewer voting element, hence that's why it was spread across 2 nights, Friday the 26th and Saturday the 27th of November. It was introduced by John Pertwee in character as the Doctor, with some playful jabs at Noel Edmonds, which is better and funnier than anything in the episodes themselves.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. It was not made available anywhere officially, mainly supposedly due to being a charity work when nobody was paid, which is probably true. However, due to the mass availability of VCRs and video recording, there are many viewable versions out there, although technically illegal. Of course, I didn't watch any of them. I just used the script and summary and what's available on the official websites and the TARDIS wiki. So, just saying, it's probably up on YouTube, but those people shouldn't really be doing that,
Shame.
It was shameful. It was
They should
widely
be watching it anyway, so.
Well, probably true. Very, very true. This has been widely disregarded by Doctor Who and EastEnders because of the multiple canon breaks, though it has been referenced occasionally in prose and on a TV awards sketch where Dot Cotton is implied to have met the Doctor. So the spectre of it still haunts the Doctor universe. So yeah, it was sadly the final Doctor Who appearance of a lot of the actors involved. I'm afraid there, Andrew. So yeah, not the greatest ending for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, but shout out to the actors who actually agreed to come back for charity and for a good cause. It was the first use of 3D. There would later be cinema releases in 3D, like Day of the Doctor or Dark Water, Death in Heaven. The best and most notable part for me is the fact that it's the only on-screen meeting between the Sixth Doctor and the Brigadier, who at that time had met literally every other incarnation of the Doctor. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, between Doctors 1 and 7, if you want to say the Briggs met every Doctor, you have to include this as canon, which is a shame. Just to quickly go through that, he didn't meet, but he acted alongside William Hartnell's Doctor in The Three Doctors, alongside Patrick Troughton's in that and The Invasion and The Web of Fear. Appeared obviously throughout the third and fourth Doctor's era. Appeared, I think, in Mordred Undead with the fifth Doctor. Apparently, I've remembered that. And appeared with the seventh Doctor in Battlefield. So yeah, and then obviously when the classic series ends, it breaks the chain a bit. But the Brigadier did interact with the 10th Doctor, I think, possibly off screen though, and appeared in Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, I remember him. It was in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
And 12 met Cyber Break.
Oh yeah, but we don't mention that. Anyway, so yeah, getting into the sort of review part of it as best I can. I've just said that the idea to cross over with EastEnders is baffling to me. It's very British and very much the sort of thing that happens on Children in Need, but in a celebration of the 30th anniversary of Doctor Who, it doesn't, like, why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The plot is... What is the plot?
Precisely.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible.
It was just like the Rani trying to capture all the regenerations of the Doctor and stuff them in a time hole or something.
Oh, the what I would laughingly describe as plot is both nonsensical and way too quick. But yeah, moving on. Again, this is tied to a little bit of a story about me. This is one of the first Doctor Who things I ever saw. Pity me. At the time, the 3D did actually really thrill me because it was 93, so I was 11 years old, watching it at home with 3D glasses on, and my overriding memory of it is just, wow, look at that futuristic train going over the Albert Square viaduct in 3D. But which again says a lot about the episode.
Sorry.
That's what I remembered. Oh, seriously. Oof. I think that's why I didn't go back for several more years. I was like, is that what this show is? Jeez. But yeah, it's hard not to see with those childhood eyes the idea of the 3D gimmick, but it's awful. Like, what are the 3D shapes about? Why do the pickled heads look so bad? It's the whole production value is woeful. The whole thing feels like it's like an amateur play. Like a school won a competition to film a Doctor Who EastEnders crossover, and they just let them do it. It's terrible. The sound mixing is dreadful. You can't hear Tom Baker talk. You know?
No, I did wonder why Tom Baker was quite quiet. I was also kind of sad that he didn't feature in it as much, but to be fair, it's probably a good thing that it didn't tarnish his reputation too much.
It's also disgusting that he didn't return for the 5 Doctors, but did return for this.
Again, I know.
Very wrong with the world. Anyway, yeah, and it's weird seeing Tom. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of love the comedy of the fact that when the cliffhanger happens, the Rani just steps out of the Queen Vic with a gun. It's like, oh, okay.
Don't forget, we then had to vote for who would tackle her in that 3-second scene, because that was vital.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was part of the... Did you not know that?
No.
That was part of... That's how it raised a lot of money for Children in Need, which is why it's probably cruel of me to criticise it quite so much. It raised like £101,000 at the time, which is a lot. And the reason for that was there was a viewer vote element where when the first part aired on Children in Need Night, it gave you 2 numbers to call so that you could decide if either the character of Mandy or the character of Big Ron would, what they said, help the Doctor. But yeah, it goes by so fast that the scene is literally just the Rani is almost going to fire at, I think it's Nissa, one of the companions, and Mandy, who won the phone vote, literally comes up and goes, "Hey, leave her alone," and chucks and pushes the gun in her hand down a bit. And I was like,
Yeah.
So
wow.
it was like Dora the Explorer.
It did, however, give way to one of my absolute favourite moments of the whole thing because of how overacted and silly it was. I think it was Liz, the companion, that said this, but as they were walking away from that scene, she just yells at the Doctor, "Who was that horrible woman?" And it absolutely killed me. The overacting was beautiful.
To be fair, they weren't getting paid for this, so we can't really go too much into that.
Yeah.
I've agreed with Doc that it's really good. It's cool now, particularly as a fan, seeing all of the old monsters and stuff, even if it makes very little sense that they're not just all attacking each other.
Yes.
I've put, again, rest in peace, Kate O'Mara, I believe is her name, who played the Rani. This is her last appearance for the character and only one of 3 she did. She's absolutely doing her best. She's the best actor that's taken part in this, bless her. And she deserved better.
Yeah, it's a massive shame that the Rani didn't appear more because I've watched. I can't remember if I've seen Mark of the Rani, but I know for a fact I've watched Time in the Rani, which may have been a mistake. But I personally love her performance, so it's kind of sad that she only appeared 3 times and that this was one of them.
Yeah, agreed. On a similar note, I've said that weirdly Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred are great. It's like they haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that.
It's really jarring seeing the other Doctors because they've visibly aged and look different, which is never explained. But like this could literally come straight after Survival, and I think it in terms of the Doctor and Ace, and it wouldn't look out of place. But yeah, the scene jumping where they supposedly slip a groove in time, and they show that by literally just flashing an entire white screen. That's awful. And this is where I have a real issue. What's going on? The idea of their switching Doctors and companions is ridiculous. It's completely unexplained, and it makes it holds up not even to the slightest scrutiny. You're just transforming into a different person. What's up with that?
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. It is nice to sort of see different companions acting with Doctors that they didn't know, but it's still kind of a bit nonsensical.
It's ludicrous that they are literally transforming into those particular people out of nowhere. You can't just say, "Oh, it's a different time," because it's a different time, but the exact same place. It doesn't make sense. And even worse, even more egregiously, at one point there are 2 companions, so Ace splits into 2 somehow.
I don't chuffing know. Was because I know there's a part with Susan talking to, I think it's the 3rd Doctor. Was Susan always a bit of a cow?
Yes.
Because Susan was really nasty to the 3rd Doctor. She was like, "You're not my grandpa. Where's my granddad?" And I was like, "What? Were you always this whiny?"
I love the character, but it's entirely in character for her. And the actress said that's part of the reason she left. Is she got nothing to do other than go, "Oh, it's a horrid grandfather," which is absolutely true. That is the extent of that character, unfortunately. So it's kind of on brand. Again, it's a shame, but you can't say it's out of place. Yeah. Said that the actress who plays Geeta in EastEnders, who appears here as that character, would later appear and be killed by the Daleks in Journey's End because Jackie Tyler's a selfish bitch. So she should. Oh look! I'm sorry you're gonna die, but my thing's recharged. I'm out of here. You could have put it on her, Jackie, love. You know.
The only thing that was missing was her saying "yeet" as she left.
Exactly. Sorry. Boop.
or like "cash me outside."
Anyway, I've put John Pertwee's great. Every time he returned, he seemed to really care and really respect the Doctor.
Yeah,
he's on record. He's on record as saying he preferred his favorite role was Wurzel Gummidge, and he famously hates the Daleks. As a random aside, I say he's giving it his all.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you go.
I was just going to say it was really nice, however brief it was, to see him and Liz Sladen together again.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you two have, but I've read Liz Sladen's autobiography. and
not.
there's a segment where she talks about the fact that one of the reasons what was I going to say? One of the reasons John Pertwee didn't want to stay on the show was because Katie Manning left, and he got on really, really well with her.
Yeah.
And after reading that, I almost got a little bit of a sour taste whenever I saw Three and Sarah together, because I was like, oh, but he wasn't enjoying this because he wanted to be with Katie. So it was quite nice to see them actually still have really nice on-screen chemistry after all that time.
They really do. They ended up getting along. It's worth checking out the behind-the-scenes things, because you're right. And what happened is that he wanted to leave at the same time, because by that point Roger Delgado had sadly passed away.
Yeah, that was the other driving factor.
Yeah, and Katie had decided she wanted to leave in the Green Death, and Pertwee was like, well, all three of us will go together. And it was the production team at the time that were like, no, it's going to be way too jarring to have a brand new Doctor companion and everything at the same time, and we really, just stay for literally one more year, and that'll be it. And he did, but he has since said that he gets on incredibly well with Liz Sladen, and he ended up enjoying that year. I mean, he wouldn't have stayed longer, I don't think, but I don't think there's any kind of ill feeling there, and you can see they get on. I mean, it's them that interact in the Five Doctors as well. So
I think that's just part of Liz Sladen as an actress, though. I think she has great chemistry with anyone that she works alongside.
Completely, but she also has a huge affection for John Pay as well. So
yes.
Anyway, quickly blasting through, because we're about to hit 2 hours, and I'm probably going to get wrong off Will. There's cool use of the monsters here, which is silly, but I kind of like it. The good old Doctor Who cliffhanger, which sometimes is ridiculous. Mandy jumping in because we all voted for her, though the big Ron scene was apparently filmed, just never aired. The fifth Doctor holding his head to have psychic contact is a nice callback to the Three Doctors, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense. Seeing Liz Shaw reminds me that character was done incredibly dirty, and we didn't see her nearly enough. Talking about people that John Pertwee wasn't particularly nice to, and who didn't really get a good shot. Mike Yates and Bessie appear. Sure, why not?
Of course.
The next note I've got is, the Sixth Doctor meeting the Brigadier. It's cool that it happens, but it's the helicopter drowns out the dialogue. And then I've put, wow, just thinking about it, they got a chopper for this? Who paid for that? Anyway. It's weird because the companions, they've tried to put them in outfits that are reminiscent of their most iconic ones. So Sarah Jane's and her Andy Pandy outfit, for example. But Romana's dressed completely wrong, and so is Nyssa. They both just look like, obviously because this was just filmed, off the cuff, there was no production design or anything. Lalla Ward and Sarah Sutton have literally they're just wearing the clothes they came to the studio in. So they just look like random middle-aged women. And here is where it gets the worst of all. What in the name of sanity is Leela wearing? Oh my gosh. Not only does she have the most 80s perm of all time, her outfit is exceptionally racist. She wanted to be put in something like her iconic warrior outfit, but apparently not as skimpy. And the closest thing they could find was a freaking Pocahontas Indian chief type outfit. Which, there's no excuse for it. It should not have appeared. What's going on?
It's terrible.
We brush over the fact that the Rani has apparently not only cloned a person, but has cloned Romana. But not to worry, we're just going to kill her. So that's all good.
And apparently the fact that she has, 2 Time Lord brains in this thing now means that the Doctor can somehow override it or something.
That's what overloads the system, because we're going to kill the Romana clone, because that's fine. The entire plan makes no sense. The entire solution to it makes no sense. K9 appears here. Again, chuck him in. Why not?
Doesn't talk, he just sits there behind a pillar.
He does talk. No, he gets a lot to say.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he does, and the Doctor says,
K9,
could you... He gets a few lines of dialogue that I can't recall, but then they do that thing that they always do, including in the new series, where they try to give him something to do. So they give him something that could quite easily be done, where the Doctor's like, K9, laser this rope. And it's like, I'm sure you've got a pair of scissors. You don't need a robot dog to do this. But never mind.
You're on the inside pockets.
Yeah, exactly. I've only got 2 more notes until I got to my conclusion. One of which is, my word, this looks so bad. And I've said that, the best line in the entire piece, and the bit that makes it feel a bit like an anniversary special, is Sylvester McCoy's closing line. I mean, we are difficult to get rid of, because thankfully that's true, even though this probably should have killed the show. But never mind. So yeah, overall thoughts, conclusions, and a score out of 10, and hit or miss from you for Dimensions in Time. Doc?
Well, I won't give any content, but I mean, I give it a 4 out of 10.
Wow, that's more generous than I think it deserves. But yeah, so that's all you're going to say, not even descriptive.
Probably because of the costumes and the props.
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
Fair enough. Andrew?
It's pretty trash. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is.
It's very nice seeing a bunch of the old actors come back. Particularly, I was very happy to see Liz because I wasn't expecting her. I was a little bit gutted that Katie didn't appear as Jo. I would have really liked to have seen her. But she came back for Sarah Jane Adventures, so I guess she got a better return. And it was also lovely to see Sylvester and Sophie on screen again, because their chemistry, like you said, never really disappeared. I love their chemistry together. Even in this, I love seeing Seven and Ace together, but overall, it's nonsensical, it's ridiculous. I don't understand why it had to involve the EastEnders cast of all things. So I'll give it like a 2 out of 10, purely for the fact that it was nice to see returning actors.
So that's two misses so far, I would assume, yeah?
Yeah,
definitely.
And we've got a 4 and a 2. I've said the acting is good, to be fair. The script, which I put in inverted commas, is woeful. The direction is terrible, and the whole thing looks like crap. But it's hard to be angry at the intention behind this, both as an anniversary celebration and especially as a charity fundraiser. However, this is Doctor Who's equivalent of the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I also gave it it just is. I also gave it 2 out of 10 and said it was a complete miss. So that's a 4 and 2 2s. I'm sure I could work out the average, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let Will, because I have had my will drained by the fact that we've been talking about one of the worst things that to have ever exist. So a 4 and 2 2s, whatever the average is on that, Will, you can add that to the leaderboard. I'm pretty sure this is going to come bottom though, but it probably deserves to.
It's about 2.6.
Is it? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I should have
That's
known
fair.
You're on my side here. I love that. You're helping me out, man. So yeah, what did you say it comes to in the end?
About 2.6.
2.6. It'll easily be the last place.
So if you do the scores added together, so 4 plus 2 plus 2, that's 8, and then you divide it by the amount of numbers that there were, which is 3. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it'll be last, which it deserves to. So just quickly, if you guys aren't running off, we're slightly over, but I just wanted to quickly say this will be airing on November the 8th. So I wanted to give a shout out to some things that are going to be released this week. Tomorrow, which is November the 9th, as you're listening to this, there is a Blu-ray being released, which is called Time Lord Victorious, The Road to the Dark Times, which is a collection of stories that are linked or related to the Time Lord Victorious saga. The episodes that contains are Planet of the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks, The Deadly Assassin, State of Decay, The Curse of Fenric, The Runaway Bride, and The Waters of Mars. And inside this, there's a guide to every story and more context on how each one fits into the larger narrative of Time Lord Victorious that is written by the producer of the piece, James Goss. Thoughts, guys, on those episodes or the Time Lord Victorious stuff?
Well, it's fine. It's weird that they fit classic stories in there. Other than that, yeah, they're pretty solid stories, actually.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Andrew?
If you're asking for my opinion on the Time Lord Victorious thing as a whole, I like the idea behind it. I don't like the way they're selling it. I think it's kind of ridiculous to like try and drag that much money out of people who probably don't have that much, especially in the current times, for all these different forms of like extra stories between the novels and the audio and the I can't remember what else it is they're doing.
Yeah.
But as a concept, it's fine. But as a business model, I don't agree with it. There we go.
That's absolutely fair enough, and I've heard that criticism. I'm fine with it. I actually really like it because you don't need to literally have every piece of it. So it's not like those kind of things that bug me, like comic stories where it's like, this is the main event, but you also have to get all the spin-off stuff. You literally can just enjoy each piece for what it is, which I like. But regardless of that, I think ignoring that completely, the Time Lord Victorious stuff, this collection of episodes is really good. I've looked up and it's around £20 to £25, I think.
That's
which
fair.
for like 5 full classic serials plus 2 of the best 10th Doctor specials, of which, by the way, only the Waters of Mars is apparently the second thing in the 10th Doctor's Time Lord Victorious path, if you're doing that. But yeah, the others do link in ways that I'm aware of, just characters and beats. But ignoring the fact that the Time Lord Victorious stuff gives it a really good, cool cover that was made by Lee Binding. I think if you haven't got any of these episodes and you've got a spare 20 to 25 quid, it's an absolute must buy. I sadly have got them all, so I won't be buying it. But yeah, that's all I can really say
Same
about
for me.
that. Cool. Andrew, were you eating?
No, I was just listening.
Cool. So yeah, also related to that, starting this week on Thursday, which is the 12th of November, the YouTube series Daleks! Which is also part of Time Lord Victorious, will start airing with episode 1, which is called The Archive of Islos or Islos. So yeah, will you guys be watching Daleks on the YouTube channel?
I'll probably wait till everything comes out and just binge watch it.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, I'm a sucker, so I'll be watching it as it goes up. And just finally, out now, as in since November the 5th, there are a couple of notable books. The first one is I Am the Master, Legends of the Renegade Time Lord. Right, everyone, that's just going to about wrap it up, I think, for this particular episode of the podcast. I hope we haven't been too unbearable for you. And my first gig solo hosting, with help from my friend Andy, of course, hasn't been too bad. I'd like to thank Andrew Kemp and Real Doc for joining me on the podcast this week to discuss some of the, shall we say, more weird parts of the Doctor Who universe. Apologies for any sound dropouts or audio issues. It is still early days on the podcast. This is only episode 4, but we're doing our best and we'll hopefully get it perfected. But as I say, we've had a good few people engage with us in the past few weeks, and I think that's been motivating to see. So myself and Will are going to keep going for as long as people are keeping on listening. And in the meantime, keep enjoying Doctor Who. There's lots of content out there. And we will be back next week with another hit or miss and a brand new episode. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.